This is Dave Burkett from the Detroit Free Press, and you're listening to Out of Bounds Detroit Sports.
SportsRadioDetroit.com.
We don't need TV to entertain us. He said anus.
You actually have to contribute.
Wow. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Just send a couple tweets, Dave.
You know what?
Get the job done.
You know what, guys? You're welcome for every guest ever.
Darren McCarty will be joining us to talk about, I don't know, what the fuck ever. If Mickey Redmond hadn't chosen hockey as his profession, he would undoubtedly be a lumberjack.
True. Absolutely true. Or he would have played one on TV.
I must have been bombed.
You were very bombed.
Because I don't remember that at all.
Was she a good sport about it? Did she enjoy your antics?
Yeah, she giggled a little bit.
Yeah, and she's a nice gal.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Welcome to another rousing Monday edition of Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. Starring the following: David Faze, Mike Tripp is back, and I, of course, am Dan Griffin, and we are invading your ear hole, as always, on SportsRadioDetroit.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever the hell you listen to podcasts. And we apologize for not doing a Thursday show once again. Very, very, very large scheduling conflict on Thursday.
I was going to say, not only is Mike back, but we're back.
Yeah, the job held me up on Thursday. We were fully prepared to do a show on Thursday.
I think that's what's happening this Thursday. We're also not doing
Jeff wasn't going to be here, though, because he's sick as a dog.
That was actually very polite of him and friendly of him to warn us ahead of time.
He's like,
because we were going to do a show.
I don't know if you guys want me to do a show with you, because I don't want you to be trapped in a room with me when I
several
have a
hours.
cold.
And I was just like, yeah, no thanks,
I was
buddy.
thinking, are you going to be licking our faces? Like, what's going to be the deal here? I mean, on this show, I wouldn't put it past anybody to lick anybody's face. We do have an action-packed show in front of us, though, on a Monday. I don't know how the hell we're going to get to all of this. We got some big network news. We added another show. Our boys from St. Louis, Ring the Bell. I think they're going to be doing some MMA stuff.
Are they actually going to be Ring the Bell?
I don't know. I don't know all the details yet. I haven't gotten all of the ins and outs from Roger or the host of the show, Brian. But good guys. I think Brian had reached out to me for some podcast pointers, as originally, I think that's how we originally started talking, but as if I can give him any pointers at all. I'm just winging it here too, man. So, I mean, I'll tell you what I can. It's just it's not much advice I could give you.
You're the born natural out of everybody, so
if you say so.
I
even wear my tight underwear for the boner speech.
If you say so. We got Killer's Christmas coming up this Thursday, again at the Lodge Bar and Grill. I think it starts at 6 p.m.
6 or 6:30.
Support KillerCares, and the Killer had started at, I don't know, like 20 some odd years ago, to give the less fortunate children a Merry Christmas. And it's been 15 years since Killer's passing.
He's a big man with a big heart.
Absolutely. Been 15 years since Killer's passing, and his foundation, KillerCares, is still going strong with Killer's Christmas. So we're going to have some celebrity bartenders out there, as we always do. I've got some examples here, but we're also going to talk to a man that's a good friend of this show, that spent a lot of time on the air with Killer. We've done this. We did this last year. It'll probably be a tradition. We'll have Sean Baligian on here to talk a little bit about Killer's Christmas and what to expect.
Talk a little about Tom and just the whole thing.
By the way,
am I the only one that thinks that Tom, the Killer Kowalski, looks like he absolutely should have been a football coach? Like a professional football coach? He just looks like that guy.
Wanted to discuss with Sean, has anybody ever mentioned the fact that Tom Kowalski looked like Matt Millen? I mean, come on, he did.
There's resemblance there.
They could have been brothers.
There's resemblance there. Yep. Probably would have done a better job, to be honest with you.
We're going to get Ben Szilagy.
I don't think you could do worse.
We're going to get Ben Szilagy on the show. He's agreed to come on, I think.
That was one thing we missed on Thursday.
He had agreed to come on as of Thursday because, I offered the open invitation for us to have this thing out as, we can't have infighting here at Sports Radio Detroit. We have got to resolve this, and we're going to try and get that done tonight. It was another a really, really awful weekend in Detroit sports. You got the Stones losing 2 in a row, Red Wings losing 10-1 to the Habs.
I got to tell you something about that, too.
And another Lions loss.
Slight digression from where we're going to get to, because I know obviously we're going to talk some Lions, but my buddy Sam, who's been made reference on the show many a time. Him and some pals went out to watch that UFC fight on Saturday, and amongst the few TVs that were not on the UFC fight, they had the Wings on, right? And apparently, they got in a little bit of according to Sam, they got in a little bit of a tiff with the owner of a great establishment in Berkeley. I'm sure you can probably figure out which one. And for asking them to put the Red Wing TV, one of the Red Wings TVs, onto the Pistons game. And the guy was like, well, we got to make sure these patrons are okay with turning the Red Wings on or off. They're losing 7-0. Who the f wants to watch it? Who cares? Turn the Pistons on.
I'll see you guys there.
For God's sakes. It's like it just made me laugh, the fact that he apparently actually had to have a debate with this guy about why it made sense to turn the Pistons on instead of the Red Wings. Like anybody was going to give two shits, the Red Wings got turned off.
Do you ever shut the fuck up?
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, the Lions lose in Baltimore. It wasn't too bad. 44 points given up to the second worst offense in the league.
Shut out at halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. 44-20, your final. No points in the first half. A solid day for the Detroit Lions, if I do say so myself. And here's it's sarcasm, of course.
I was going to say the day actually started out quite well. The implosion.
Oh, that is the most Lions thing ever, isn't it? The Silverdome survived many implosions, and it survived one more on Sunday.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. They couldn't bring it down. That was like the most anticlimactic thing. I was just sitting there watching it going, oh, dude, somebody lost their job.
Oh, yeah.
You know how much money that cost to set up those fucking those controlled explosions?
By the way,
it didn't go down.
Were you home in time for the proper implosion today to be able to like hear or feel it at all?
No, I was still in the car on my way back from the office.
I had no idea that they were going to do it today. Especially like that sudden.
I found out today at about 3:50 that they were doing it at 4 o'clock. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Dude, I got in my car, was leaving work, and then I just happened to go on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing R.I.P. Silverdome, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Oh, God,
like,
who cares?
What?
Who cares? I don't people commenting on social media. So sad to see it go. It was a dump for the longest time. There's nothing but terrible memories there outside of Barry Sanders and a few concerts, right? Yes. What the hell else happened at the Silverdome of note?
WrestleMania.
Okay, there you go.
And a lot of monster truck rallies.
We have actual audio of the failed implosion on Sunday. It didn't go well. Did not go well. Still going.
Yep. Supposed to use C4, not whoopee cushions, fellas. Not going to bring it down.
Anyway, Lions losing Baltimore 44-20 this week, and desperation game, and pretty much a game that you got to win to keep your playoff hopes alive. And what do the Lions do? Dave, what did they do? I think I've already mentioned one of those.
They lost.
They gave up 44 points to the second worst offense in the NFL. They get to Joe Flacco, a grand total of, ready for this, 0 times, no sacks in the game. You guys ready to pay Ziggy? You ready to pay him?
I haven't been ready to pay him all year.
Can't even get to Joe Flacco. Guy with the mobility of a tree stump and the second worst offense in the NFL. You give up 100 yards on the ground to two guys you've never heard of, and Danny Woodhead. Let's see. You let the cadaver of Mike Wallace go for 116 yards receiving, and you punt the ball 6 times. So there you go. That is how your Detroit Lions get up for a big road game against a mediocre team in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. Where have we seen this movie before? This never happens. Every fucking year. Every year, it's the exact same thing, and I made a bold claim that Dave didn't think was so bold. I truly and firmly believe that the Aaron Rodgers-less Packers will finish ahead of the Detroit Lions in the NFC North. I think the Packers are going to finish 8-8, and the Lions will finish 7-9.
They're not going to be the Aaron Rodgers-less Packers for the whole rest of the year. They're going to get them back anyway.
Not if they have playoff hopes.
Yeah. What was it, 2 weeks ago that the Packers played the Ravens, and they were shut out? At that point, I honestly counted them out. It's like they needed to win that game to keep playoff hopes alive. If they would have won that, then yeah, Rodgers is coming back. Now that they won in Tampa Bay, yeah, now it's starting to look solid, but...
They scared you there for a minute with that Tampa game, though, didn't they?
Oh, they did?
Giving it away, almost giving it away.
Actual audio from Aaron Rodgers this afternoon.
I'm good to go now. I'm good to go, man. Shit.
I would love for the Packers just to keep him on IR for the rest of the year. Don't risk it.
Well, you're probably not gonna win anything in the playoffs.
No.
But if you get in, you got to give it a shot. And probably with any other team not named the Detroit Lions, I might say that's true. Because I said last week that your best case scenario as the Detroit Lions was to get in as a wild card and then go get the brakes beaten off of you by whoever the hell you have to go on the road and play. Just like we've seen over and over again. Franchise trajectory. How long do we have to wait till they take the next step? We waited 20 years. Then now we've waited another, whatever it is, 6 years for them to take the next step. And it never happens. And, by the way, slow down on putting Tion Green in the lineup, by the way. Slow down. Slow down, Jim Caldwell. Guy goes out there, 51 yards on 11 carries, a touchdown, and 4.6 yards per carry.
Well, you know what he did? He didn't run fucking backwards.
or do what Abdullah does and just jump 6 times at the line of scrimmage before he finally chooses a route to run the ball.
You know what Amir Abdullah looks like half the time behind the line of scrimmage? You ever seen it's like an arcade game that's like an active game where like they'd have it like a Dave and Buster's type place where it's like you're supposed to be doing like
Dance Revolution.
Well, it's sort of that kind of concept, yeah.
Okay.
But it's actually like a football game, and you play a guy where you're supposed to like be going through obstacles, and, like doing like the tires and stuff. So you gotta like hop around. That's what he looks like. And in the video, I mean, it's every movement is like the most exaggerated thing you've ever seen, and that's Amir Abdullah. I think they used him as a reference point when they made that video game.
I'm over that experiment. I'm pretty much done with that experiment.
I'm done with all running backs on this roster not named Tion Green now.
Not named Tion Green.
And actually, no, you can keep Zach Zenner as your third guy. I don't give a shit. That's fine.
Isn't that just it, though? Like, what if Tion Green really is the best running back on this roster? Now, it's a small sample size. Guys had 11 carries plus whatever he did in the preseason.
Ran all over the place.
But would you be surprised
if he's the best?
If he's just the best back on the roster?
No. You know why I wouldn't be surprised? Because apparently this draft year, I realize he was an undrafted guy, but this draft year for running backs apparently was just the year of the fucking running back. Just running backs galore came out of this damn draft.
I'm going to tell you one thing.
And Bobby Quinn couldn't get any of them.
And I firmly believe this. And I feel like I've said this before. Let's go back and check the tape. I don't know. But
I don't have time for that.
Jim Caldwell should have been fired as he was getting off the plane. Now that's on coming back from Baltimore.
You wanted them to Lane Kiffin him?
Yes. Now that was never. Bob Quinn should have been standing on the tarmac with a pink slip and a $25 gift card to Chipotle. Thanks for your time, Jim. Here's your fucking severance package. But what do we know? Now you don't agree with this, Dave, but Jim Caldwell's best friend owns a team. So what I'm looking at here is maybe another Marvin Lewis situation here in Detroit. No joke. Get to the playoffs once in a while. Never do anything of relevance, but we'll get this. Don't worry, Cincinnati. We'll get you into the postseason once every 3 years. I mean, isn't that what Jim Caldwell has been in his tenure here?
Okay, he's been there 2 of the last 3. But look,
I love Jim Caldwell.
I know you do, honey.
Let's be realistic here about what we're talking about. I'm not disagreeing with you at all that that Caldwell's not the guy. No disagreement. You won't hear any debate from me on that. However, the comment you're making about, as I said, Lane Kiffining him and leaving him on the tarmac there, is a very unrealistic thing to have happen.
With a $25 Chipotle gift card.
Okay.
Got to give the guy a severance package. Oh, wait, a severance package would be the whatever millions of dollars you owe him for the next 2 seasons after the damn extension.
But we don't even know how long the extension is. That's the other thing. We have no idea how long they gave him.
I don't give a shit about the extension. It doesn't hurt the Lions financially. I don't care how long or for how much you extended him for. You're going to be fine firing Jim Caldwell yesterday.
Anyway, when you
I love Jim Caldwell.
are in a spot where you technically, as terrible as yesterday was, you technically are not out of playoff contention. Now, don't get me wrong. Even if they somehow miraculously say they win the last 4 games, which I think is actually very highly doubtful. Even if they do that and find a way to squeak in because a couple other teams, have a rough end of the year and they get into a wild card spot, they aren't going to do goddamn thing in the playoffs. They're going to get their ass kicked by whoever they play. But when you technically are in position to make the playoffs, it is not it's very unlikely for a coach in that position. As much as we all agree he's not the guy, that guy's probably not getting fired at that moment. It's just not. Just nobody's going to do that.
Well, you can't. You can never count on this organization to do the right thing. And what's the constant? Here's the thing.
I gotta be honest with you. That's a little unfair, though. That's a little unfair based on my point.
Can we agree?
It doesn't
here,
matter
though?
that it's the Lions. It could be anybody. Nobody in their right mind in a playoff race when they have a chance to get to the playoffs, regardless of how good you think they're going to be when they're there, which I will tell you they're going to be terrible if they get there. You're not going to fire that coach. It's just not going to happen.
There's got to be precedent for it somewhere. I mean, I'd have to do some digging, but I'm sure it's happened before. When a team
There's an exception to every rule, absolutely.
When a team looks this
so
bad,
unlikely.
Okay, can we agree here then? If the Lions finish this season 7-9,
yeah,
they're 6-6 right now.
Mm-hmm.
They finish this season 1-4, go 7-9.
Yeah,
and Jim Caldwell is back next season. Is Martha Ford any better than her husband?
Probably not.
Because there's but that is how my theory is proven right. If this team finishes 7-9, I'll even say /8-8. Either one. Don't make the playoffs in a year where Aaron Rodgers died, Dalvin Cook died, the Vikings are roasting people with a third-string quarterback, the Bears are just not ready yet, and you go 8-8, don't win this division, and keep Jim Caldwell, there is no question about it that Bob Quinn has absolutely no say over Jim Caldwell. No say at all. Because Bob Quinn, who we think is a pretty good GM, we don't really know yet, but he's shown some promise here and there other than one major blunder about not filling the running back position during the draft this year.
Right.
We think he's a pretty good GM. There is no way a good GM keeps this guy around.
Well, and even the running back thing, you could give him a slight pass on based on the fact that he hadn't really had a true chance to see Amir Abdullah and wanted to see what Amir Abdullah would give him. And clearly now he knows that answer is nothing.
Criticism doesn't bother us.
So we know because because you have job security, Jim. You're not going anywhere. Your best friend owns a team. I don't know why I'm upset.
You're more upset than I am. I don't know.
I'm not upset about the Lions losing. I'm upset that I'm just upset with the idiocy of the organization. Always.
You're letting them get to you, man.
Like the fact that Detroit is in their name makes me want to throw up.
Now I'm the one on Easy Street. How'd that happen?
I love Jim Caldwell.
God damn it, I know. Oh, God. Why don't you make out with him, Martha? And he treats the media like they're assholes. Like, that's the other thing about Jim Caldwell. Like, he's never honest. He's a terrible soundbite. He treats Dave Burkett, who's probably one of the best beat guys in the NFL, like he's a moron. And we have to sit here and watch this. We have to sit here and listen to this every week. Check the report. It's hard to win in the NFL. You can't win them all. That's it. That's all you get out of this guy.
Same old song and dance, man.
I swear to God, if Dave Burkett didn't have like an established family with a wife and kids here, and any other team in the league offered him a beat job, he should just run away. He's probably been offered jobs other places that we don't even know about.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We can ask him sometime.
God, I literally hope the only reason he stays here is for his family. Because if he stays here for this team, Dave, just get out of here. If you can find a better town, which is what would be 31 other towns in the NFL, just go.
I don't know. I mean, going to Cleveland might
No,
be
go
rough.
to Cleveland, go to Jacksonville, do what you got to do.
Well, yeah. If he goes to Cleveland, it'll be fun because he'll get to talk to a different coach every year.
Oh my God! I think we got to take a quick break here. We might have an inordinate amount of breaks for this episode. We had a couple phone calls to make.
That was abrupt.
What do you think? I mean, do you have any? I mean, unless of course you have something to add.
I mean, I didn't necessarily have some long-winded thing to say, but I just felt like it was abrupt. We got to go. All right, see ya.
I mean, we're going to have an inordinate amount of breaks here.
It's going to be a weird show.
Maybe 4 breaks? No, not that many. 3 at the most.
All right. No, whatever. I don't have much control over it.
I mean, if you have something to say it, Dave. Bring it to the table. Flush it out.
Lions need a running back.
And a new coach!
And apparently 2 defensive ends and a defensive tackle and 3 more linebackers.
And an
they need a lot
offensive
of
coordinator.
Things. They need a lot of things.
People are worried about Coots and Austin getting blown out. Here's an idea. You want to save Terrell Austin? Make him your head coach. You're listening to Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. David Faze, Mike Tripp, myself, Dan Griffin. We'll be calling Ben Szilagy to iron this whole thing out. Right here. Absolutely next.
We can ask him about this Twitter feed going on right now.
I don't know what you're talking
Twitter
about.
Feud. Twitter feud.
But I am interested to find out during the break. Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. David Faze, Mike Tripp, myself, Dan Griffin, sportsradiodetroit.com. Do not go away.
Hey, this is Brittany Wagner with Last Chance U, and you're listening to Out of Bounds Detroit Sports.
Well, if it isn't ass and wipe.
Yeah! Welcome back! Out of Bounds Detroit Sports, David Faze, Mike Tripp, and myself, Dan Griffin, invading your ear hole, as always, on Apple Podcasts, sportsradiodetroit.com, or wherever the hell you listen to podcasts. And we've got to get to Ben Szilagy here in a second, because we do have to we have to iron this thing out, Dave. We have to iron out the controversy. We cannot be at each other's throats as an SRD family. And Ben has agreed to take our call, and we can resolve this. We can resolve this issue regarding Jim Harbaugh, regarding Michigan football, and we can move on and be better for it. I think.
Is Ben feeling a little sour? See what I did there?
No, but you are.
See what I did there? Yeah.
We are enjoying a delicious sour from not Griffin Claw, Jolly Pumpkin.
You got confused because your glass.
Yeah, I did.
You confused.
I did
yourself.
it. I'm drinking it out of a Griffin Claw glass.
Anyway.
Yeah, but first, Mike, you did.
Also speaks to how many good breweries we have in the state of Michigan. By the way,
top beer state. Woo!
I think it is.
What do you think, Mike? In
terms of quality,
it's definitely in the top 5. There's a lot of.
Who are the rivals? Who are Michigan's rivals when it comes to top beers?
Top beer states.
Beer states or.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 5 are California, Colorado, Michigan, I believe Oregon.
This is what I'm talking about. A fucking showdown.
What about Chicago or Wisconsin, one of those? Or, Illinois or Wisconsin, sorry.
I can't drink spirits if I'm going to be driving.
Out west. I could be wrong.
No, that could be.
But
Colorado's definitely got some good ones. I can definitely attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there a couple. I've been there once, and they've got some really good beers.
Aren't you special? But you did, Mike. You I've been to Colorado, and then you didn't even puff on any of the Colorado salad when you were there. Did you?
I don't believe that we did, no.
Has Kristen ever gotten high with you, Dave? Just once.
I don't know.
There was that one time. There's that one time in Gainesville.
I will say that yes, we have both smoked before at the same time. Yes, I don't know if she or I actually got like legitimately high or not. I can't honestly speak to that part, but we have smoked together. Yes.
I would love to see you two stoned together, sitting on your couch with Sienna, napping.
I've literally only been like that level of high once in my entire life, like where I just was sitting there doing nothing. I don't usually get like that.
So that you've only been like that anti weed smoking commercial where they melt into the couch once.
I've only been that. Yeah, I've only been that like that once, where you become like a flat, floppy person.
Do you want this to be your life? This could be you. Don't smoke weed.
Yeah. When I got high, I just played Call of Duty and ate Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I dug on the Krispy Kreme. I was more of a salty snack guy.
I don't relax to the point of like just like not wanting to do anything or being like a passive person. I just I just feel mellowed. Like I just feel relaxed.
Man, this is so awesome, man.
Okay, I'm not like I'm not like
put on some jams, man.
I'm not from Dazed and Confused, man. What the hell are you doing over there?
I mean, some people might say you look like Sean Penn.
No, nobody would ever say that. I don't know. If they did, they need their eyes checked.
Let's let the Facebook Live viewers tell us.
I have gotten Conor McGregor a couple times. I thought was odd. Because I have a beard, apparently. I guess that's all it takes.
If you have a beard and that like half pompadour haircut, you're automatically
Conor McGregor.
You're automatically Conor McGregor.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Mike, you found some fun that you can have with the Silverdome right now.
Yeah,
there's some events going on at the Silverdome. They're interesting.
There were 3 events that I saw between yesterday and today before they actually brought the Silverdome down this afternoon. One of them was to bring your fan to the Silverdome, and they were hoping that thousands of people would put their household fans, aim it at the Silverdome, and hopefully the wind would just knock it down.
See, I thought you were talking about like a bunch of Asian ladies showing up with their little fans.
The little geisha fans?
It's just a Silverdome with just geishas surrounding the whole thing.
It would be
with their fans.
Silverdome parking lot full of generators, and then
just waving at it like it's overheating.
Another one was to throw rocks at the Silverdome, and hopefully that'll take it down. And then the third one that I saw that was probably the most clever was to bring the Joe Louis fist statue that's downtown.
Just swing it at
and
it.
Start hitting the Silverdome with it.
I saw some people talking about how after they brought it down today, they were like, it looks like it's still standing. Because it kind of does look like it's still standing, except like the first floor is completely obliterated.
It is still partially, and apparently that's what makes the whole screwed up implosion the first time even funnier. Is that according to what I heard? Because I saw that too, and I saw the footage from today. I'm going like, doesn't really look like it really fully came down. Apparently, that first implosion that was supposed to happen and didn't work yesterday was always supposed to be a partial implosion. They couldn't even figure out a partial implosion. They fucked up a partial implosion. Well, I mean, so now they got to do it. Now I think I don't know if they're going to do another one to get the bottom floor, or if that was just so they could get to a level where the bulldozers or the wrecking balls could come in and it wasn't going to hurt anybody because it's not so high up anymore. I don't know, but
they're supposed to be dismantling it.
You don't want to fuck up all those Volkswagens in the parking lot.
Section by section over a year, and the thing with that implosion was just to bring that top,
the
upper ring down.
Okay,
that was the whole purpose of it.
Oh, nice.
But it's just kind of
what
funny
the fuck is going on?
It takes 2 explosions.
That is hilarious.
The best thing that I saw, my old boss from the Rochester Mills, he took his family and his 2 sons, which they're 10 and 8, so they have no recollection and memories.
Daddy, what is this dump?
So he took his boys.
Is this a Hot Wheels car track, Pop?
And they took some video of the implosion as it was happening. Then of course it goes off and the dust settles. And the youngest, who's 8, you hear him go, "Is that it?" Yep, sure enough, that was it.
The most Lions thing ever.
Absolutely.
Should we get to Ben?
Yeah. That's what you're going with?
Yeah, why not? We got to make peace. Hopefully he answers. I don't know if he's expecting our call or what. There we go.
Hello.
Ben!
What's going on?
Hey! You sound happier, Ben. You sound a lot happier.
Happier than what?
Ben, I take it you did receive our invitation.
What do you mean?
To come on the show here. We have got to resolve this conflict, Ben. We cannot be infighting amongst ourselves. Shh, don't ruin the show, Ben.
Go ahead, continue.
Ben, we have very differing opinions on the way that Jim Harbaugh's career has started at Michigan. Now, I will offer this disclaimer that Ben has stated on more than one occasion that he is not in love with Jim Harbaugh like some crazy Michigan fans are. Is that correct, Ben?
That is absolutely correct. Yep.
However, after the Ohio State loss, we had very differing opinions on how much blame the coaches have for what has happened this season. And I'm gonna let you go ahead first, Ben, and just kind of give your side to this deal.
Well, when you lose your starting quarterback, your number one wide receiver, you still don't have your starting left tackle. Your left tackle's playing out of position. And then your backup is ineffective, which does fall on coaching, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, when a lot of those things happen, and you're still returning, or you're not returning 10 starters on defense, with what transpired this season, at least to me, can't be too upset about it. I mean, yeah, the Michigan State game was a debacle. Michigan State totally kicked Michigan's behind and had a perfect game plan for them. And the second half, they were just flipping the field the entire time. Penn State, absolutely frustrating, obviously. I mean, Michigan comes back, and after giving up 14 straight points before anyone sits down, they battle back, but then they get their butts handed to them in the second half. But also, in that same breath, Penn State has been circling that game since Michigan beat them by 39 points. But with the Ohio State game in particular, I mean, John O'Korn played out of his mind except for, I would say, the last couple of drives. I mean,
and you can tell that he cares. You can tell that he cares after the game was over.
That is true, but the thing is, he ultimately didn't execute when he needed to. I mean, there was time. I mean, the very last drive, right, has an opportunity, and then Jim Harbaugh covers for him, which I don't appreciate. When he says, he just misread the coverage. You don't misread the coverage by sailing the ball 10 yards, and that falls on your quarterback. That doesn't fall on coaching.
Well,
when it comes to execution, then yeah.
That's one of those things. That particular play, Ben, that's one of those things where you look at and you go, there was certainly a miscommunication, but whose fault was it? Was it the receiver's fault? Did the receiver run the wrong route? Or did John O'Korn not realize where the receiver was supposed to be? So,
considering there's three on that play, if you watch it and freeze frame it, there's three guys wide open that he overthrows all of them by 10 yards.
Okay. Admittedly, I only watched it once.
I was going to say, it's not like he just overthrew one guy. Three guys were wide open on that play. McDoom, Gentry, and I believe it was Donovan Peoples-Jones was the third one, but definitely McDoom and Gentry were wide open. And he sails the ball 10 yards. I mean, that is execution. That is not coaching.
But my point was, Ben, Jim Harbaugh, and I don't mean for this to sound like hot take theater, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true. Like, Jim Harbaugh is the quarterback guru, right? Or he's supposed to be, right? And he comes in, and he doesn't have his guys yet. He doesn't have his guy yet. Now, will we find that guy next year? Perhaps. There's three solid guys that are going to be either returning or coming in next year.
And in fairness, and this almost actually speaks to Ben's point about losing your quarterback, is that we still, based on the game plans they gave to Brandon Peters once he took the job, we still don't really know how good Brandon Peters is or isn't. And that is something we will more than likely find out next year. And that could be a leg up for Jim Harbaugh if Brandon Peters comes in after a full season being the guy, or a full offseason of having a chance to be the guy and getting all the reps. If Brandon Peters is ready to go, then Jim Harbaugh gets another notch in his belt of, okay, maybe we shouldn't have doubted him on that.
Yeah, but even when Peters came in, he wasn't bad.
He was fine.
He was just meh. And then when it comes to Wilton Spate, I mean, this is a guy
they didn't ask Peters to do that much. Frankly, though,
Wilton Spate was your starting quarterback. He got hurt, but he wasn't very good to start with.
He wasn't
this season.
He wasn't.
And I look at this. What I'm looking at here, Ben, is body of work for Jim Harbaugh. Right? He's paid to be a top 5 coach in the nation. He's looked at as if he should be a top 5 coach in the nation. And I look at what other coaches have done in their first 3 years in other places. Now, I know the SEC is a little bit of a different ballgame, okay? But you've got Saban winning a natty after year 3, after coming in and having a worse situation than Harbaugh did. You've got Jimbo Fisher coming in and winning a natty in year 3. You got James Franklin winning the Big Ten in year 3. You've got Dabo Swinney with a national championship appearance in year 3 and a victory in year 4. Now, and then you've got Urban winning a natty in year 2. Now, that's kind of an outlier because he basically inherited Jim Tressel's squad. So we can even throw that one out the window. But the rest of the 4, and then it's like with Jim Harbaugh, it's like, what have you done for me, dude?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, though, too. Like, I mean, you look at it, it's not satisfying in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we could all agree that it's been a major disappointment in that regard. But like, one thing that people also forget, and this is where the Iowa loss screwed the Wolverines last year, Michigan still was playing in the final week at Ohio State to go to the Big Ten championship game. And a lot of people, we all know what happened. J.T. Barrett, was he short, was he not short? And you just have to, at that point, accept that it is what it is, right?
Yep.
And the very next play, Curtis Samuel runs for 21 yards and ends it. So, but like still, he's gotten a veteran team, still not his players, but a veteran team to be eligible for a Big Ten championship. Granted, they've not been to Indianapolis since the game's been created. That falls both on Harbaugh and Brady Hoke. And one thing I will say this in Jim Harbaugh's defense, because it's something that not a lot of people talk about, is that when it was midway through the season, when you saw those memes where it was, Jim Harbaugh and Brady Hoke's record in year 3, and it was the exact same. If that was truly the case, Brady Hoke would still be your head coach because, yes, we all know Brady Hoke could recruit. His first 3 classes were actually pretty good, but his last class wasn't great, and then when he was being fired, it was a very small class, and that wasn't great either. But if he was able to develop those kids, he'd still be the coach at Michigan. So it's unfair when we know what Jim Harbaugh has done. 4 straight NFC championship games when he was an NFL coach, getting to the Super Bowl, taking an irrelevant San Diego program in D3 as his first head coaching job, and then taking Stanford, who hasn't been relevant since John Elway's been the quarterback in the 70s and 80s. And then you match him with that record. I mean, that's a little unfair. I mean, that is just over the top of it. Like I said, disappointing season, sure. I mean, you can be frustrated with it, but you can't be like, well, ultimatum, year 4, you're done. I mean, to me, that's just a broad stroke asinine statement. And that's why I said 5-6 years. If he's not getting that done in 5 or 6 years, then feel free, pack your bags, go back to the NFL, go to Chicago, go to Indianapolis, wherever you want to go, get back to the NFL. But the reason why I say 5 or 6 years is Michigan has seen what you do when you get rid of someone in year 3 or year 4. Because a lot of people always like to say, well, you're winning with someone else's guys. It was Rich Rodriguez. He made that famous quote. Brady Hoke's, he got to eat the cake that I put in the oven. So, Brady Hoke in his first year, Michigan somehow finds a way to go 11-2 when they were winning games, pulling them out of nowhere. But after that, they've declined each year. Jim Harbaugh hasn't declined. He, in his first 2 years, won 10 games. This year, when they're a bowl game, they win 9 games. If anything, Jim Harbaugh's been consistent. So, it's just, that's why I say 5 or 6 years. If he's truly not beating Ohio State in 5 years, if he's get him out of Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Because, yes, he'd be an utter disappointment. I mean, if he's not beating Michigan State at least every other year, and that's bare minimum, then yes, get him out of Ann Arbor. Let him go to the NFL. But Brady Hoke regressed every single year. His offense regressed every single year.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh hasn't really.
You mentioned Jim Harbaugh's consistency, right? 10 wins, maybe 9 wins this year. Here's the issue that I have with that. It's the kind of consistency that you don't want. It's the kind of consistency that Georgia had up until they finally got themselves a coach. They're really cute. They go, they start in the top season, the preseason top 10. They go out and they lose 3 games and they never win anything of substance. And that's certainly not what I want to see out of Jim Harbaugh. And it's like I told you on the Facebook there, Ben. If Jim Harbaugh goes out and wins a Big Ten championship next year, or I'll even give you the year after, this all goes away.
I think he needs to get to a Big Ten championship next year.
It does, and I feel a lot better. But what I'm looking at right now is Jim Harbaugh's underwhelming 3-year resume, being 1-5 against Michigan State and Ohio State, with the lone win being by what was it, 5 points against the 3-9 Spartan team, and Jim Harbaugh being 4-7 against Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State, and 1-6 against top 10 opponents. Like that's worrisome when you're a blue chip program where blue chip programs these days don't give these coaches this amount of time. Now, I know Jim Harbaugh is going to get that, and he's probably going to get as much time as he wants. He'll walk away when he chooses to. But, that's why I'm sitting here going, if it doesn't turn around next year, and when I say turn around, I mean exactly what I was looking for this year, right? When you have a down year, when you have a young team, all I want to see out of you is some semblance of improvement throughout the year, and I don't feel like we got that with Michigan this year, outside of a couple of guys.
Yeah, I mean, that is completely fair. And, I mean, this team, at least this year, the improvement, if there was one, was very minimal and incremental. I mean, it wasn't like it was in the first 2 years, where you could tell by, if you compared week 4 to week 9, how much different the team was, right? I mean, there wasn't really this year that breakout game. Like last year it was the Penn State game. The year before was the BYU game, where all of a sudden everything just clicked and Michigan went on from there. I completely agree. And it's something, though, I will say this, because a lot of people don't, and Jeff, I think you mentioned it, people don't know what you have in Brandon Peters.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a little immature because he, in the spring, was probably neck and neck with Wilton Speight. And everyone was told, well, Spate's going to be given the starting reps at fall camp. And when you feel you beat out the starter in the spring, you thought maybe you'd get more than the first string reps than you did. Because I know in fall camp, Spate went, I think, 60% of the reps, and then the other 40 were split. I think it was like 20 or so, maybe even 30 and 10 between O'Korn and Peters, and that dejected Peters and checked out. But when Peters actually played, Brandon didn't ask him to do a lot. First game, I think he threw, 7 passes? And then the second game, he doubled that, maybe threw 15. One thing I will say this, that if people are unsure what you have in Brandon Peters, he did work the pocket better than Wilton Speight this year or John O'Korn this year. He wanted to throw guys open, which John O'Korn still refuses to do as a senior. which I don't even know how the hell you don't do that, especially when you've been in the system for 3 years. The fact that you don't do that is pretty damning.
Well, what we can say for sure is that Wilton Spate and John O'Korn, the little bit that we saw out of Wilton Spate before he got hurt, there was a regression with those two guys. What I will say is this: when Brandon Peters was under center, you could kind of feel a little bit of a different energy in the team. Now, those were games that were against pretty, I guess you could say, subpar opponents. You know, Peters didn't really have a chance to play much against any teams with any semblance of talent, but you could see a different energy. So I guess it's something you could look for going forward here. I mean, the thing that I look to next season that makes me a little bit weary is, you know, you've got a young team. You got to hope that what you have coming back gets better. That's going to be a good start. But you also have to consider the fact that, you know, you're losing the only two offensive linemen that have any semblance of talent in Cole and Kugler against an offensive line that, let's be honest with ourselves, Ben, they were awful, especially in pass protection.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about it. You said, what does it take? I said, well, he needs an offensive line first. I mean, he still hasn't had that. I mean, Kugler, I don't even think was good at the center. I think he was actually downright terrible. I mean, the only really good offensive lineman they had consistently was Mason Cole, who was playing out of position. A kid, Bredesen at left guard wasn't really doing that well. But then again, Bredesen was a Harbaugh kid. Mason Cole wasn't. We know he was a Brady Hoke kid. So was Kugler. And Brady Hoke, while he recruited highly rated offensive linemen, all of them did not pan out to be like those 4 stars, 5 stars that they get in recruiting services, right? Mm-hmm. But like you look at like what Cesar Ruiz did, the freshman out of IMC Academy, when he went in with Patrick not Omame, what's his name? Anywho, it's slipping my mind at the moment. When he was in at right guard, and Michael Wenu, that's what it is, thanks. But when he came in, he looked a hell of a lot better than any freshman we've seen in a while. So, granted, these guys are going to be young, but I don't know if it's honestly addition by subtraction where they don't have these bad habits that whatever was formed. But, I mean, yeah, the offensive line has been bad at Michigan since, 2006. I mean, we're going a long time. The offensive line has not been a Michigan offensive line.
Destroyed Devin Gardner's career.
Well, yeah, exactly. Almost killed Devin Gardner. You know, almost killed Denard Robinson a couple of times. Definitely killed Russell Bellamy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, the offensive line has been not even average. I mean, average, I think, would be an improvement. But, yeah, I mean, who knows? We hear all these stories that, you know, all the young guys are really looking good on the offensive line. But at this point, I'm with you. I'm like, well, show me that they're good. Let's actually see some good line play.
See, it sounds, Ben, like we have a lot more common ground here than we thought. I think, Ben, you just kind of want me to calm down a little bit. And I can respect that.
Yeah.
You want me to calm down a little bit, and I want you to get a little more angry, and we can agree to disagree on that part.
Oh my God! Yeah, we just have to meet in the middle and be like the exact same. That's what it is.
Well, Ben,
yeah,
we've got to get to Sean Baligian talk a little Killer's Christmas because it's coming up.
There you go.
Yeah, you should come out to the Lodge Bar and Grill this Thursday. It's what is it, 6:30, something like that.
6 o'clock,
Yeah. But it sounds like, Ben, it sounds like we're in agreement. Michigan needs to get better. I just want you to get a little more angry, and you want me to calm down a little bit. Oh, Dave's mic's down.
Yeah, why'd you turn me? Sorry. You turned me off, bro.
Would you agree with that statement, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, next year, if Michigan goes 8-4, 9-3, and, you know, again, they lose to Michigan. If they lose to Michigan State before their bye week at Penn State, and they have 2 losses in that time, then yeah, I'm going to start to get pretty frustrated. Don't worry.
Fair enough.
It'll happen.
I expect that Michigan State game next year to be quite entertaining because you're going to have two teams with very similar trajectories. We all know Michigan has the better high-end talent, but they're going to be, I think, overall are going to be pretty evenly matched because neither team's losing hardly anything. So they're both bringing back tons of experience now, and it should be pretty interesting. Should be pretty fun to watch.
That's right. I'm with you. All right, Ben. We appreciate you coming on. I think we've got this resolved. We're all good. We're friends again.
You say we were never not friends.
We weren't friends for like 30 minutes on Facebook a couple weeks ago. All right, Ben.
Everything's good.
All right, Ben. You have an awesome evening. You can find Ben on the SRD Roadshow on Saturdays. And what else are you doing these days for the network, Ben? You're writing still?
Right, and then still doing Lions.
Still doing Lions. Well, that must be a nightmare.
That team. If it's say you want me to be angry about a team, tune in the Lions because I'm beyond patient with the Lions and I'm done. So
it's not worth it. It's not worth it to get upset with them anymore, Ben. All right. Ben Szilagy.
That's what I told Dan earlier. We were talking about the Lions.
Yeah,
he wasn't even mad about the Lions losing. He was just like getting upset about like Martha loving Jim Caldwell so much. And I was like, Dan, when did I become like the sane one? When did I come take easy street here? That's very bizarre.
All right, Ben Szilagy, co-owner right here, SRD. You can find him on the Road Show. You can find him on Lions SRD, and he writes a lot of very insightful articles for the website. Ben, we appreciate you coming on, resolving this issue, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take it
See
easy,
you, Ben.
This is Darren McCarty, four-time Stanley Cup champion, Detroit Red Wings, Lemieux killer, Stanley Cup winning goal guy. You're listening to SportsRadioDetroit.com.
The tradition of Festivus begins with the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
Oh, yeah, welcome back. Out of Bounds Detroit Sports, David Faze, Mike Tripp, and myself, Dan Griffin. And just as promised, we bring in a good friend of the show to talk about a pretty awesome event.
That's still the best modern-day Christmas song, by the way.
I mean, I guess. Mariah still looks all right, so we're good to go. We bring in Sean Baligian, a guy that spent a lot of time on the air with Tom the Killer Kowalski, and we, of course, bring him in to talk about the annual Killer's Christmas event at the Lodge Bar and Grill this Thursday. It's the 7th, right? Did I get that right? The 7th? Yeah.
You got it.
At 6 p.m. here. So here we go. Sean, give us a fun Killer story.
oh my goodness. Where do I start? I think I told you when I was on with you guys last year about the Yeti in my front lawn. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite things. He thought he'd been all sneaky and everything. Do you guys remember the confrontation he had with Rod Marinelli? You could probably find it somewhere on YouTube or one of the drops. It was during the 0-16 season, and if you remember, Marinelli was adamant that he wasn't going to break. He went out of his way to say this isn't going to break him and everything. Well, anybody that follows the Lions, he started to break. There's no other way to say it. If you remember, he started saying some really crazy things, his pick and shovel and, all of those things. And so late in the year, he started, I don't even know how to explain it. He was trying to be deceptive or something. And it was funny because Killer asked him a question, and he just, I'll be completely honest with you, Rod Marinelli turned into like a 7-year-old. It was really odd, and Killer goes, whatever. And Marinelli goes, whatever to you. And it was funny because the look on Killer's face trust me, I know at that point in time, Killer wanted to just destroy him. And he didn't. You know, Tom was a consummate professional. I mean, he really was.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he was so upset. He was wondered if he kept asking. He was like, dude, did I do something wrong? I go, you didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about?
Get him.
You're dealing with a man who's 0-12 and is literally snapping in front of everybody. You don't know there's nothing wrong. So, but that was, to me, that's Tom. You know, Tom was, you know, he really cared about his job. That was something that, you know, I'll say that to anybody. I mean, he was just somebody that cared so much about his job. And, you know, we miss him every day. You know, not only do I miss him as a friend, but I think we miss the way that he reported on the Lions and listen and learn, and you know, so many killerisms.
Yep.
He's just a great human being. He really is.
Can't believe it's been 15 years. And Sean, what I will ask you, just kind of in regards to what you just said about him and Marinelli, with the way that the current Lions coach handles his business with the media, I'm curious to know how you think Tom would be with Jim Caldwell, a guy who's basically treats Dave Burkett like he's an idiot, and Dave is an incredible beat guy. I'm just wondering how you think that the Killer would deal with Jim Caldwell.
That's a great question, because you know, there's part of me that says that Tom would have some fun with it, and then there's part of me that says he just go straight down the line. I mean, honestly, it's you know, Tom didn't put up with things, but at the same time, the one thing that people don't know about, Tom had some thick skin, man. And let's face it, in this business, you have to have a lot of thick skin anyway. I mean, that's just, you don't survive in this business without thick skin. And it really is it's a great question, because I'm intrigued myself. I don't know how he'd handled. Caldwell's not easy to get mad at, because he kind of has that. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. That Caldwell attitude. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure if it would be a situation where he got quote unquote mad or anything. Frustrated, I could see that. And if he got talked down to, Tom would give it back, because that was Tom. But I think Tom would be very professional about it, if that makes sense.
That's fair enough.
Well, I mean, like as you just stated, his ability to be a professional in a field that is very difficult to do that in sometimes. I mean, I would even say that's a bigger thing than having the thick skin is biting your tongue, not so much when you're about to get lassoed, but when somebody's just giving you a bull crap answer or just not giving you anything. And I mean, like, you're
hey Dave, check the report. It's tough to win in the NFL.
And now you got Stafford saying check the report. I don't know if he's mocking people or if he's just or if just Stafford's kind of it seems like a fun loving guy, so he might just be kind of playing that game. But no, I mean I'll tell you this. I know you just said you're not sure how it would have gone, but I sure as hell would love to see it. I would have loved.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I'd love to see it. It would be a heck of a lot of fun. And, unfortunately, right now, there are a lot of questions that deserve to be asked. Let's be honest. And I think the one thing that I have to always bite my tongue on a personal level is it's just the utter lack of a sense of urgency out of. It drives me out of my mind. And you know what? Here's the problem, and it's not just for the reasons that you think. Here's the problem that I see. When you start out of the gate, the way that this team started out of the gate the last 4 games, okay? What is it? It's 33 to 3 or whatever the heck, the 36 to 3, I think, whatever the heck
in the first quarter.
They are in the first quarter. Yeah. But when you start out of the gate the way they have, everything has been open now. The door is open to say, well, is it because you guys don't have a sense of urgency? Is it because you play this game? It's just another game. This isn't must win. I don't believe in must win. And that's the problem. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think that Jim Caldwell and a lot of the players quite understand that when you constantly say, no, we don't believe in big game, and, no, I mean, we have to stay the course and everything. Well, guess what? When you come out of the gate the way they do, people are going to say, oh, wait a second, maybe you should mix in a sense of urgency. Because, I mean, honestly, these starts are disgusting. They're disgusting.
I love Jim Caldwell.
You can get away with it. You can get away with it against the Browns, and you can get away with it against the Bears. But you know what? You're going to get run against teams like the Vikings and the Ravens. And that game on Sunday was disgusting. I mean, it was just an ugly game. And, that's what frustrates you. But unfortunately, there's that's the way it goes in Lionland.
I will say this, Sean. 15 years later, right? Killer is still right, isn't he? Just pick him to go 8-8 every year. He's still right. We're still there.
Here's the crazy thing, guys. I think when this season is all said and done, they're going to be above 500. I really do. I think they're going to be above 500. And the crazy thing about it is it would be the first time that they've had back-to-back seasons over 500 since 94 and 95. Now, if that doesn't tell you how bad this franchise has been, I don't know what will. I mean, honestly, and I really believe that they're going to go at least 3-1 down the stretch. Contrary to what Coach Caldwell said today, I think the prospects of the playoffs are long gone, because even if they go 4-0, I'm not quite sure that 10-6 will get you in.
Yeah, you need a lot of help right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, I like Bob Quinn. I do. And I think better times are ahead. But at the end of the day, it's predicated upon your progress as a team. And, they haven't taken a step up this year. I mean, there's no other way to say that.
Kind of speaking to your conversation about the lack of urgency thing and the bad starts, I will say this for anybody who's on the
all of this Lions conversation in Killer's honor, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on the fire Jim Caldwell bandwagon, and rightfully so. After what's transpired the last 3-4 weeks, but there appears to me, at least maybe I'm naive to think that there's any hope that this franchise is going to do something the right way. But there appears to me, at least, to be, for all the things that are said, and the biggest claim about why Jim Caldwell has been the right guy for the job so far in the last 3-4 years, is that he gets the team really together really well, and he's a good, as me and Dan, and I'll give Dan credit for this because this is kind of Dan's phrase, and I think it hits the nail on the head. He's a great Monday to Saturday coach, but he's terrible on Sunday, basically.
I've heard that 100 times. Yeah, here's the thing. Like Jim Leland. Jim Leland drove me nuts personally. I mean, he did, and I think Jim Leland at the same time didn't maybe get the credit that he deserves, because he ran that room wonderfully. Those guys loved him. I mean, they swore by him. And there's a lot of that going on with Jim Caldwell. And I think you have to give a manager or a coach a certain credit in that regard. That it's not easy to have the guys willing to go to war for you, and I'll jump through hoops for you and everything. But at the same time, I mean, there were so many head-scratching decisions by Jim Leland, and I've always felt this way, and the 9 men on the field kind of shows it yesterday. I think sometimes the moment gets too big for Jim. I do. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully. I think there's enough data out there that would make one say, maybe the moment is too big for Jim Caldwell, So, it's frustrating. Is this the guy that takes this Lions team when they have the proper roster? Is this the guy that takes that team over the top? I find it hard to believe. I do. But at the same time, this is a guy that you have to say it again. They love this guy, and they'd be willing to go to war with him.
I mean, I guess especially after yesterday, but
his clock management is atrocious.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Go back to his time in Indy, where there's. I think you can still find it on YouTube. Peyton Manning lost his mind.
He makes an egregious error at least once a game.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, the best way I can describe it is the moment's too big for him. I mean, honestly, that's it. He kind of gets lost, and unfortunately, we've seen it far too many times. And again, when you can say something multiple times and you can point to it happening, that's where the questions arise. And I think sometimes the disconnect between the fans and certainly the disconnect between perhaps a coach and the media is, how can't you understand why these questions are being asked? I mean, this isn't coming out of the blue. This isn't a scenario where people are just throwing something against the wall to see if it sticks. So that's what happens when you start to lose. You start to see more of that stuff creeping in, and that's the way that it is.
And how when you're supposed to be a coach of a NFL team, you're talking football at its highest level, and you're supposed to be the head man of that particular football team. How do you have 9 men on the field? How does that happen? How does it happen?
In every sense of the imagination, it's inexcusable. And you know what? If you want to be that guy that blames it on your special teams coach or the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, whatever the case may be, I think that's weak too. I mean, that's something that as a head coach, you own that. That's yours.
And in fairness, he did do that, so I'll give him credit for that. He didn't try to pass blame, but it's still. I mean, it doesn't make it any better.
I think Jim's a good man, and that's what. And I know a lot of people out there probably won't agree, and that's okay. But I think he's a good man. I don't necessarily know if I want a strictly good man as my football coach. I mean, it's the old Joey Harrington argument. I remember people used to always talk about, oh, Joey's such a good guy. Joey's such a good guy. Well, Mother Teresa's
his name's Joey.
I don't want Mother Teresa as my quarterback. No. You know what I mean?
The thing about Joey Harrington, Sean, was that he was a grown man who still went by Joey.
By choice.
I don't know how much you guys were listening to my show back then, but
every day, Sean. Every day.
Well, thank you. I coined the phrase Joey Blue Sky, and I'll tell you what. Whether people want to admit it or not, they were all in on Joey until very late in his career with the Detroit Lions. People just would not accept that this guy wasn't good. I mean, they wouldn't accept it. I think they wanted to believe so badly that they kind of suspended reality and all of that. And it wasn't until very late that people started to say, okay, this is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So,
Sean, I can tell you,
that's the way this town is.
Sean, I can tell you that my lost investment emotionally in the Detroit Lions came when I was about, 14 years old. I had a Joey Harrington jersey, and I can't remember what play it was, but this dude threw an interception over the middle, overthrew somebody, and I pulled my Joey Harrington jersey off, and I put it in the fireplace, and I lit it on fire. And that was my okay. I can't get emotionally invested anymore. And then I think when I gave up,
Dan was a troubled child.
Wait a minute. When I really gave up was I believe it was about a week before Christmas in maybe 2012, 2013. They played the Baltimore Ravens at home, and Justin Tucker single-handedly beat you.
I remember that game. Was it like 18 something?
Yeah, it was like
18-15?
18-16 or something.
Yeah, 18-16. That's right,
18-17, I believe.
That's what it was.
18-17. Yep. And the 61-yard field goal. Oh, goodness gracious.
That was when I quit.
Only the Lions. I mean, that's how many times have we been left saying that? How does this happen? How does this happen all the time? And unfortunately, go ahead.
The most Lions thing ever happened in a place where Killer spent a lot of his time with the botched implosion on Sunday. Silver Dome.
It was. That was. The way I've always looked at the Silver Dome is what a dump. What an absolute dump.
That's what I said.
You know what? People grew an affinity to it because it was our dump. That's the way my friends and I felt. I'm not as stupid as that sounds. That's what we grew up with. It was our dump. I mean, it was just a rancid place. I mean, it really was. It was just a big cement block. But I think for sentimental reasons, perhaps people in my generation grew a certain affinity for it because, again, it was our dump. That's where we grew up playing football.
But it's not like there was a lot of history there.
Yeah, it's not like the Joe.
It's not like it was the Joe or Tiger Stadium. I mean, there were a lot of bad years in that building.
Incredible bad years. I mean, it's. I mean, when you think about it, we had that span in the '90s where things were going well for a while, and one of the loudest places I've ever been was that game against the Cowboys in January of '92. Guys, I'm not joking. It was so loud in there. And think about that. That is the game that generations of Lion fans hold on to. I mean, you just shake your head. I remember a few years back I was talking to
I was 3 years
a
old.
guy from right? I mean, I remember a few years back I was talking to a guy from Cincinnati. And this guy in Cincinnati was trying to tell me that Cincinnati has a worse history than Detroit and, the Browns and all that. And I said, I want you to pick one of your Super Bowl years. Just one. Just pick one Super Bowl year. And he was like, all right, well, we'll pick the year that we played in Detroit, Super Bowl 16. And I go, do you understand in that one playoff, you won more games than the Detroit Lions have in the Super Bowl era? And there was silence, and he goes, no way, you're lying. And I go, dude, look it up. The Lions have one playoff win. And there's silence, and he goes, all right, you win. I mean, really, it was that simple. It was that simple.
I mean,
and
even Cleveland fans can say that with the Bernie Kosar years. Even Cleveland fans can say that. They had a shot at a Super Bowl if it weren't for Elway's drive. Nobody can say what we can say, Sean. Nobody can say that.
No, that's the way it goes. And like I said, unfortunately, you have to own it, and you have to think in the back of your head, we're going to get the right person in here, and they're going to make the right decisions. And like I said, I was talking to you guys before we went on the air. I cannot believe in totality. I cannot allow myself to believe in whatever, or excuse me, forever. I can't do that. I just, no, it's unacceptable to me. So here I am.
And I have the mentality where I want to be.
Dan does believe in whatever.
Well, wait a minute. No, that's not necessarily true. Sean and I are on different sides of the table where Sean is able to have belief, and I'm okay with that. But for me, just prove me wrong. I'm going to say you suck. I'm going to say you suck every single year. And then when you finally prove me wrong, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give the slow golf clap.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for finally proving me wrong. Thank you.
This is what I always say in regards to that. How on earth could I blame you or any other Lion fan for being absolutely frustrated about this football team? How could you do that? It's you can't do that. It's absolutely inconceivable for somebody to sit back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you. Why are you so down on this team? Have you not watched? Honestly, have you not watched? So, look, you have to own what you are. You have to accept the fact that, there's still a lot of work. This is still a lot of work in progress and everything. But to me, how could you chastise somebody for being down in this franchise? I don't get it. This is what they are.
Sean, I'm curious to get your opinion on this, because Dave and I have disagreed on this as far as who Jim Caldwell is in relation to Bob Quinn and Martha Ford. Because I am of the school of thought that Jim Caldwell is Martha Ford's best friend, and she's calling the shots with regards to Jim Caldwell's employment. Dave happens to believe that if Jim Caldwell has a terrible enough year this year, that Bob Quinn will have the autonomy to fire him. Now, I think what happens at the end of this year, say the Lions go 8-8 in a year where Aaron Rodgers is dead, in a year where the Minnesota Vikings are playing with a third-string quarterback and lost one of their two best offensive weapons in Dalvin Cook. Wait a minute. Okay. And in a year where the Chicago Bears are just not ready to win, he doesn't get this team to the playoffs at a minimum and stays around, I have to believe Martha Ford's calling the shots on Jim Caldwell's employment.
I would be drop-dead shocked if they got rid of him. The only way I could see it happening is if the bottom completely fell out. Completely fell out, and they lost out the rest of the way. I'm not joking when I say that. I think to try to answer your question proper, I think yes, no doubt about it. Martha Ford likes Jim Caldwell. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I don't know how far it goes in regards to Bob Quinn wants to get rid of him, but Martha wants to keep him. I don't know anything about that, but I know that she really likes Jim Caldwell. I know that, and I think she's made that known.
Caldwell.
Yeah,
I know you do, sweetheart.
Known as well. So, I think, like a lot of people, we were surprised that the Lions said, "Surprise, we extended him." Because we were at camp every day, and you didn't hear anything about it in the summer. You didn't hear anything about it, and then all of a sudden, surprise! Yep, we extended him. So, there was that, but how much of that was Quinn? How much of that was Martha Ford? I would merely be speculating. I have no idea.
Well,
I really don't.
And we were talking about this, earlier in the show when we talked to Little Lions, and we both agree that Jim Caldwell having an extension isn't really going to have much of an effect on whether they decide to fire him or not. I don't think that
it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect their finances. They don't give a shit.
To me, extending him as they did was merely to affect the people asking about his lame duck status. That's it. So that question would go away, and he wasn't a lame duck anymore, and people could stop with that. And then it was, well, was he doing the job well enough or not? Should he be here or not? So it became a very matter-of-fact conversation. And right now, there's obviously a very good debate to be had for either side. And I think both sides have valid points they can make. There's statistical things you can point to. But to me, the last couple of games, I look at the way things have gone, and even just the reaction of the players afterward. And I for the first time, and this kind of speaks to the whole thing we've said about him being, as you said, Sean, just a very good man, and I think a very good leader of men. We've used that phrase on this show many times, and I think there is something to be said about that. Absolutely. When you got a 53 grown men that. I mean, there's a lot of weird things that can happen in a season, in a pro sports season, and fracturing can happen. And he's done a very good job of holding locker room together. But I do think that I personally, over the last couple of games, have seen little signs here or there of maybe some minor fracturing happening for the first time in his tenure here. So for the Jim Caldwell naysayers, and there are many. That's your little glimmer of hope that maybe the end will be sooner rather than later for Jim Caldwell here. When you got players saying something completely other than what the coaching staff is saying, and especially after that Baltimore loss this week, yesterday, there were some players that looked like there was kind of that loss look like we don't even know what just happened.
Well, and you know what? I'll go back to what I said just a few minutes ago. And you have to understand that everything is in play when you come out the way that they did. And I think sometimes this is, again, one of those disconnects between, I think, fans and media. They're almost oblivious to the fact that somebody could ask a question like that. Like, what? We didn't have them prepared. And it's like, how can't you figure that out? You've been smoked early in games. Of course people are going to bring that up. Of course people are going to bring up preparation. Of course people are going to bring up, how dialed in you are during the game when you have 9 freaking men on the field. Like, how is this even a question?
Sean, by the way, you can say fuck on this show. It's totally okay. You have 9 fucking men on the field.
But I mean, I think you get the point. It's sometimes it's mind-numbing because it's almost like you're the dumb guy for asking that question, and like it's bizarro world to me. Like and it's like time out. Wait, what? Get my men on the field. I'm the dumb guy. You know what I mean? So, you know what? That's what happens when you lose football games. So, and the questions are going to keep coming up, and quite frankly, you go down to Tampa and you lose to that crap show. I mean, that is an absolute crap show. You go down there, and a lot of the bets are off, man. I mean, the drums are going to get very, very loud, in my opinion.
Just speaking to that, the 9 men on the field thing. I think that's the first time that I've witnessed an egregious mistake of not having enough guys, but that's definitely not the first personnel issue in the course of a game that has happened with Jim Caldwell over the course of the last 4 years. And it just, the fact that it's happened time and time again is just a bad look. I mean, I don't know how you can have that happen multiple times.
I mean, that combined with, the clock mismanagement.
It's bad.
What we can say for sure, Dave and Sean and Mike, is that Killer would have a field day with this. And, just bringing it back, to the event that we're going to have here this coming Thursday.
Sean, do you think Killer would be calling for Jim Caldwell's head right now?
There's a great question.
No, I don't. No, I mean that. No, I don't. That's one lesson that I would like to believe that Tom kind of passed on to me, and I learned a lot from Tom. And I know it's not always the popular sentiment, especially when fans are emotional. It's so easy. It's the low-hanging fruit to call for a coach's head. Listen, I've said this on WJR, on the Lions radio network. I'll say it here. I have no problem saying it. I'm not a Caldwell fan. I'm just not. He's a nice man. He's a good leader of men. I don't think he's a head coach. I really, truly don't. So, yes, I think the Lions can do better as a head coach. But I think when you're coming off a year where you went to the playoffs, and in fairness to him, if we're going to hammer him for all the misgivings, as we have here and we all should, in fairness to him, the injury situation with this team this year has been absolutely abnormal. I mean, it's been crazy. What this team was designed to be and what this team has been are two different things. So again, for me, it's my job. I think it's my obligation to be fair. And if we're going to hammer on one side, and rightfully so, I'm not taking any of it back. It's absolutely mind-boggling that you have had 10 men on the field so many different times, and then you went next level and had 9 men on the field. I mean, that's crazy. I think we have to tell the whole story. We have to paint the whole picture. So as sure as I'm sitting here, I do not believe that Tom would call for his head. No, I don't.
All right,
that's fair enough. No, that's fair. I, to be honest with you, I think that actually probably speaks to Tom's professionalism more than our own.
That's why he was a journalist, and none of us are.
Because we will sit here and say, "Get him out of here." That's what we do over here.
We've got Killer's Christmas coming up this Thursday at the Lodge Bar and Grill. How many years has it been there now, Sean?
At the Lodge, gosh, I want to say 2011. Okay. 2012, maybe. It was after he passed because it was at the brew house, and I'm still trying to figure out how we packed so many people into that small area. It was really something. And it was either 11 or 12 that we ended up moving it to the Lodge. And to say that the people at the Lodge are great would be a complete understatement, because, I mean, they literally open their bar, man. They open their bar completely, and it's incredible, and proceeds go out to all of Killer's charities, and it's just, I know you guys stop by. It's a fun night. It's a fun night, and I think it's the one time during the year, in my humble opinion, that you just get such an eclectic group of people together, and everybody just has a good time. I think the fact that it's for Killer, the fact it's for charity, and the fact that it's so close to Christmas kind of makes that so. But my goodness, it's such a fun time. It really is.
Sean, I will say this because obviously last year was the first time that we had a chance to actually attend, and we had a very good time. And you talked last year. We did something very similar. We had you on to kind of preview what was going on with Killer's Christmas, and you said the same thing last year about just how open door the people at the Lodge were to you guys and to this event, and how they just are super hands off. They say, you know what, it's your night, do what you're gonna do. And man, when we actually got a chance to get there and see what it was like, they certainly are exactly that.
You got Woody Woodruff dancing on the bar like a maniac. We were going to have Woody on the show, but then Dave lost his number.
It might be hiding somewhere. Whatever, we'll figure it out.
But it is.
That man has no energy.
Yeah.
No, you know what? It's funny. Matt Riley put me on the shift with Woody at night because Woody and I have always got along wonderfully, and I think Woody has to take out his aggression and that energy somehow. So he loves to check me. And I'm used to taking a few checks, so it works out well. I think back behind the bar, and I think Woj is going to be with us, so it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun time. We got the late shift, and it's going to be fun back there. It really is just a cool time, and I not to get sappy. I get sad driving home every year since he's been gone, because I remember spending nights driving home while he was here and everything, and guys, he'd be so proud to see A, that it continued, and B, that it's grown to what it's done. He'd be so proud of that, because I always want to remind people that there really were two people. There was Killer, and there was Tom Kowalski, who was one of the most tender-hearted human beings I've ever known. And I mean, I can't even put into words to you how just a wonderful big heart that man had. So, it's in a good way, though. You know what I mean? It's not, oh, I miss Tom. It's in a good way that, you're just so proud that it's grown to what it has and everything. So, it's a lot of fun, man.
Well, and it's
and hopefully you guys can make it out again.
Absolutely, we plan to be there. And speaking to your emotions when you leave the event, I can relate to that. It's an event that means a lot to you. It has to do with a dear friend of yours. And I volunteer at a summer camp every year, and when I go home, it's the most depressing day of the year for me, because of what it represents for me. And Killer's Christmas is the same way for you. Tom started this event, I don't know how many years ago was it, Sean? A million years ago, as Killer's.
Gosh, 02, 03. I think 02, 03. I think it's 14, 15 years. It's been around forever.
Yeah,
200 years ago.
Killer's Christmas for the kids, and he started it on his own, and his organization KillerCares has kept it going on, and it's basically meant to give less fortunate children a Merry Christmas, because I think that's something that a lot of us take for granted, right? We all grew up with having maybe we didn't get everything we wanted, but we had presents under the tree, and there are a lot of kids that don't have that. Killer recognized that. He started this event. We keep it going today, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
Sean, the other thing that I thought was so cool, having actually had a chance to experience it firsthand last year, and as you said, I mean, absolutely, I think eclectic group that you get there, I think is absolutely the right word. But the other part, and you mentioned this last year before we actually got a chance to go see it for ourselves, man, it's like you said, between what it stands for and it being close to Christmas and all the factors that lead to, kind of happy-go-lucky thoughts, it doesn't matter what kind of people everybody are when they walk in the door. There's no egos in that room.
Yeah,
Zero.
it's awesome. That's the coolest thing to me, because it's newsflash. I think some people in town love themselves. Themselves. So I think no names mentioned, but I think
Dave.
What happens when you walk in that when you walk in that door, everybody just drops it, and everybody's just there for the right reasons and to have a good time and everything. So it's that's really cool in that regard, no doubt about it.
Some of the people showing up, we've got, you mentioned Wojo. We got some of the people that weren't there last year.
There's some new ones.
Yeah, Braylon Edwards is going to be there this year. We've also got Sean's boyfriend, Mark Fellhauer, from the Drew and Mike podcast, along with his buddy Drew Lane.
I miss Mark. Yeah, I do miss Mark.
Sean Maz is going to be there this year.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
We're going to get graced with Tom Mazaway's presence, and maybe we can play a little Seinfeld team for him.
I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea. Wow.
Tom's a buddy of ours, but we haven't talked to him in a while.
Larry Murphy, Lomas Brown are going to be there. Come check it out.
Amy Andrews is going to be there this year. I know that she wasn't. I know she wasn't there last year. There seems to be a slight lack of female. I know Hammer's there again, right? Hammer was there last year. She'll be there again.
Yeah. You know who was always there? Shannon from Fox Sports Detroit. She was always there.
Shogun?
Yeah,
she was always there. So Jamie Edmonds, I know, usually makes an appearance. Trudy Daniels was there in the past. So I don't know if they're all coming this year.
She's on the list.
Trudy's on the list.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
She was there
Glad
last
to hear
year.
that. So, yeah, she's a great lady too. I mean, she's just a cool lady. So I mean, yeah, it's a little packed behind the bar, and especially when you get roped into doing the late shift, man. That's when things get really crazy.
Yeah,
so,
buddy.
Yeah, you know. My biggest thing is I just keep my eye on Woody, because if I'm prepared for the impact, I'm cool. But when he comes and blindsides me, that's when things can get broken.
Well, he knows you're the hockey guy, so you can take it, right?
Yeah, I just bend my knees a little bit. Absorb the hit, and then he'll give me a big hug and say he loves me, and then we go on with the day. You know?
Sean, when you wear...
Woody's one of the genuine guys. I love Woody to death.
Who doesn't? Well, Sean, when you wear a hockey jersey behind the bar...
Just asking for it, yeah.
Yeah. That's on me, yeah. You're right.
Who else is on that late shift? Obviously, Woody, and you said Wojo. Anybody else that's going to be on that late shift with you guys?
I'm sure that people magically appear. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of, you know, who are you? You know, and things like that. You know, some things like that have happened. But, yeah, it'll be fun. And, you know, you're on your toes when you're back behind the bar.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I think what was funny is it wasn't last year. I think it was 2 years ago. I had the late shift again, and so many people had stuck around, and they were just behind the bar that literally got to the point where I was back there for a half hour, and I was like, there's just no reason for me to be back here. Because there were like 5 different people working the bar and everything. So, you know, got a chance to walk around and mingle and chat with people and things like that. So, I mean, that's part of it as well. Just go out and, you know, shake some hands and talk to people and stuff. So it's just a fun night all the way around. It really is.
But for those that have never seen Sean behind the bar at Killer's Christmas, he's very, very focused. Sean, you are very, very focused on getting the job done, getting people their beverages, and every dollar that you spend from the time that you're there, going towards Killer's charities, giving kids a Merry Christmas, and all of Killer's other charities from KillerCares. Can you elaborate on those a little bit, Sean? Where the money's going?
Yeah, I had to laugh for a second because it's something that you just said. Somebody in the media a couple of years ago, I don't know if they want me to say it, so I won't say who it was. Somebody said almost the exact same thing that you just said. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you're taking this really seriously." And you know what? No, but you know the way that I look at it? I mean, put yourself, you're on the other side of the bar. Is there anything worse than waiting 5 hours for a drink? You see the bartender frolicking around and acting like an idiot? You want your drink, damn it.
Yeah, so, but Sean, if it were you, I would pay to see you frolicking and acting like an idiot.
but you know what? I mean, you got to remember while you're there, and you're there to work first and everything and all of that. So, yeah, it's a fun time. Yeah, the one thing that is really cool about KillerCares, you can go to the website now, killercares.org, and it lays out in detail how the dispersal happens and, you know, what is done with the money and how that works. I forget how many, you know, not only toys are involved, but certain charities are involved as well. I forget how many there are, but there's a bunch in there, and that's the cool thing, because not only do you have the people from KillerCares, but you have the people from a couple other charities that have kind of joined forces with this and were near and dear to Tom's heart for this, that, or the other reason. So that's the cool thing. I mean, it really is a myriad of uses that all of this money is going to. And I got to say again, I mean, the people at the lodge are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal to open up and give of themselves and give. The charity out and everything. It's such a great event, and I'm so glad that it's grown to the level that it's grown.
Sean, I gotta say, just in terms of differing styles of how you handle yourself behind the bar, I do specifically remember last year at one point asking Woody for a drink, and him and I had a tab running, and I tried to tell him my last name for the tab, and I'm pretty sure he just gave me a military salute and walked away. And I don't know what that meant. Don't know what it meant. Don't know if he charged me the drink. I'm not really sure. But I just was like, well, I guess that's one way to go about it.
That's right. Killer's Christmas at the Lodge Bar and Grill this Thursday, starting at, roughly 6 p.m. and go until whenever we shut it down. And Sean will be behind the bar along with a bunch of the who's who.
Sean, what time does the late shift start for anybody that might want to get there just to see your face?
Yeah, baby.
10:30. I think 10:30 is when I have to show up, and they, Matt was like, Matt Riley, who's one of the organizers, was like, dude, can you hang until close? And I was like, sure, whatever you need.
Baby.
And, so it'll be fun, and I think at some point in time I'll have one for you, one for me, one for you,
That's
one
right.
for me.
There it is.
I have a little fun back there myself.
There it is, baby.
So come out, Lodge Barn Grill this Thursday in Keego Harbor, and every drink that you buy is going towards Killer's charities. So come out, get sloshed for a good cause.
But order an Uber.
That's right. Please, drive safe.
Yes, order an Uber.
Sean, we appreciate you coming on and talking about Killer's Christmas and talking about Killer's Passion, the Detroit Football Alliance. And we'll have you on again soon. We haven't had a chance to talk about the 10-1 victory for your Habs.
Well, you know what? I was going to drop you with, oh, look, Paul Byron just scored again. But I guess we're running out of time.
Man, those Rubbings are a good hockey team,
bad
baby.
when Paul Byron's putting up. Things are bad when he's putting up a hat trick on you. Like,
you
come
got
on,
it.
Man, it's Paul Byron.
It's brutal.
Another day at the office.
Yeah, we'll get you back on here to talk some hockey if there's anything to talk about very, very soon.
Just not locally.
Yeah. Sean, we appreciate you coming on, and for those out there, come out to Killer's Christmas, Keego Harbor this Thursday.
Sean, we'll see you Thursday, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Anytime, guys, and definitely see you Thursday. Take care.
All right,
Looking
take it
forward
easy, Sean.
to it. See you,
Bye-bye.
Sean.
Bye-bye.
Hey, it's Jake Chapman from Pistons.com. You're listening to Out of Bounds Detroit Sports on Sports Radio Detroit.com.
I gotta take a dump.
What are you doing, Dave? We need that.
I don't know. I'm just lost in my own mind.
Dave's
right now.
ruining stuff.
I'm not ruining anything.
Welcome back. Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. David Faze, Jeff Mell. I'm sorry. Mike Tripp. You guys all run together. You guys got to stop changing spots all the time. Mike, you are still here, right?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there.
Try to sound like Jeff and make it real.
I'm hanging in there. I can't do his laugh. I can't do it.
Jeff would be proud. Jeff would. Sounds like a weird Furby laugh or something.
Or like a Jack in the Box.
Something like
with
that.
Jack Nicholson's Joker head poking out of it. Oh, God. Anyway, Dave was going to ruin things, but then he didn't because he...
It wasn't ruining things. It's not like, whatever.
I fixed it. And other thanks to Sean Baligian coming on talking about Killer's Christmas. Be sure to get out there. The Lodge Barn Grill in Keego Harbor. This Thursday, December 7th. Starting at 6. Going till close. Rub elbows with with Detroit's finest media members.
Rub elbows.
That's right. Rub them. I want to see somebody walk up and actually try to rub Sean's elbow.
Is that like some weird back alley Eskimo kiss or something? What is it? What does a rubbing elbows mean?
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna rub somebody's elbow at Killer's Christmas.
So does that imply you're going to massage somebody's elbow?
Yes, I'm gonna rub somebody's elbow.
We'll have to Snapchat it, or it didn't happen.
That's right. I'm good. You heard it here first on Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. I'm literally going to rub somebody's elbow. I'm gonna rub Dave's elbow. All right, it can't be. All right, I'll even screw myself over. It can't be you, Dave, you, Mike, or Jeff. It has to be somebody else's elbow. I'm gonna rub somebody's elbow. Should I go rub Jeff Moss's elbow?
Oh, that would be great.
That would go over well.
And then he just talks shit about me on his blog for the next 17 years. Hold a grudge. You should tweet at Jeff Moss from our Twitter feed and ask if I can rub his elbow on Thursday.
Hey, Jeff, we were wondering if we can rub your elbow.
Anyway, you were exploring the Twitterverse there, Dave.
As I do.
And hopefully the folks remember when we had Chris Castellani on the show earlier during it was late in the Tiger season.
Yeah, it was like late September we had him on.
He posts all these videos on Twitter about how frustrated he is with the Tigers.
Post-game recaps, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very entertaining.
And he continued through the postseason as well. He did it for all the different postseason games. So he kept going on that. It wasn't just 100% local for the entire year. It was local through the Tiger season, and then he went and did the national thing for the playoffs.
But Chris gets very upset.
He's a passionate guy.
But the thing about when Chris gets upset is that he's still really smart about it. Like all of the points that he brings up, you can't argue him. You can't argue against him. But I can understand why people get upset because it's so negative. But I'm the kind of guy who digs that because that's kind of how I roll.
But here's the thing, and this kind of goes to what I tweeted him about this. I don't think it's negative. I think he's just being realistic.
Anyway,
he's being realistic.
He had one about Michigan that maybe Ben wants to watch.
Yeah, and just so kind of a quick, I don't want to say refresher, but just a quick update on what this is. Basically, there was a little a mini Twitter feud that happened today between Mark D'Antonio and Jim Harbaugh,
which should never happen.
No, because I want to say yesterday. After some of the bowl games.
Well, Mark D'Antonio was a little bit bitter about not getting a New Year's Day bowl.
Well, no, that's not fair because that's not actually what happened. That's not what spurred this conversation.
Even so, it doesn't matter. I'm not happy that Michigan's in the fucking Outback Bowl.
But they basically got asked about. It was something in regards to the head-to-head matchup with Michigan. Like, why did the Outback Bowl choose Michigan over Michigan State? It was some sort of question in that regard.
Did Wojo ask that
and Mark
question?
D'Antonio basically just said, "Look, we're gonna do what we can do, and that's to focus on when we meet Michigan, we'll play Michigan to beat Michigan, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna continue to play to defeat Michigan when we play them. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Okay, fair.
That's what he said, and it wasn't like he said something unprompted about Michigan. He was basically asked a question that led to that line of that answer. So then Harbaugh gets on Twitter today. It says something to the effect of. Really great of it was basically trying to take a shot. Really great of Mark D'Antonio to I can pull up the tweet even. In fact, let me try to do that real quick, and then I can actually read it for what it is, and that'll be better. Let's see. There
you go.
You got it?
Yep.
Go for it.
Saw Coach D's comments on continuing to focus on how he can beat Michigan. Congrats on turning around a 3-9 team plagued by off-field issues. Good for Big to have him back.
Yeah, good for the Big Ten to have him back. Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, taking shots. Okay.
The off-the-field issue thing was a little much.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. I don't really have a problem with anything else that Harbaugh said. I mean, was it...
It was backhanded and sarcastic.
Yeah, unwarranted, and was he, does he have anything to back it up with? No, but at least that portion's not really personal. It's the off-the-field comment that, because, and I've openly admitted on the show that I think, for the most part, other than waiting a little too long to have a press conference, which I believe we talked with Ryan Schuling about.
I said that too, yeah.
Other than that, I think Mark D'Antonio's handled that situation pretty well. Pretty well. I don't really have that much bad to say, other than maybe he should have said something a little sooner. That's it. But that's pretty small compared to what it could have been. So anyway, continue, Dave.
But and to me, the thing about it is like, and this is what we're gonna hear in this video of Chris Castellani is, first of all, regardless of the content of it or the context of it, why did you, Jim Harbaugh, feel a need to respond to D'Antonio's comments, which were not aimed to be a shot at you at all? It was in response to a question that was asked.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a bitter Michigan State fan from 1996.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that bothers me a little bit as a Michigan guy.
So anyway, so Chris had some things to say about this, and we'll go ahead and play this out, and we'll see how it goes. Hold on.
A really good team.
Okay, I got to back this up to the beginning, and here we go.
Perhaps.
Hello?
Can we get better equipment?
Jim Harbaugh tweeted today. He poked a little jab at Mark D'Antonio and Michigan State's their entire program as a whole. I can't put into words how angry this makes me. Once again, coming from a Michigan fan. Because I don't know when the program, when the coach, whoever the fuck is in charge is going to wake up. Where does this arrogance come from? That tweet is so perfect. It so encapsulates why everybody hates you. Why everybody hates Michigan. Why they root for your fan base to be miserable.
God, you're making me so mad!
Were you fucking there in October when you were playing at home? You coached that game. I had to sit back and watch it. I felt like I had to put my fucking testicles through a salad mixer the entire fucking time. I'm sick of this bullshit. And so fuck Harbaugh, fuck Braylon Edwards, fuck Marcus Ray, fuck Desmond Howard, fuck Mike Hart, fuck anybody who continues to try to spit this narrative that the Michigan State rivalry is somehow a lesser rivalry, that it doesn't matter. Go fuck yourselves. I'm a Michigan fan who grew up in East Lansing. That game means everything to me. And the fact that it doesn't to the people who actually play the game, who actually coach the game, makes me, I can't even tell you how furious it makes me. You want to take jabs at people that are more successful at you? Fine, I'll do the same. You're an overrated coach. Brady Hoke handed you a really good team that had NFL talent. He was just so incompetent that he couldn't develop it. Your quarterback play has gotten weaker every single year that you've been there, and you haven't won diddly dick. So shut your face, close your fucking Twitter account until you actually win something, then come back to me.
He's a little fired up.
Chris is always fired up.
He's not wrong.
That's the thing. He's not wrong.
But you gotta give Harbaugh some time.
It's 7 to 27 years.
I was gonna say
somewhere there.
3 years, 3 years not enough.
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Recognize, if you're a Michigan fan, recognize what you are. Recognize what your team is. And we had the conversation with Ben earlier today. Now, he and I have a little bit of a disagreement on how upset people should be about this. But Ben and I think Ben recognizes what they are. I do. I recognize what they are. I think Chris recognizes what they are. There are too many Michigan fans out there, however, that don't. Michigan State's kicked your ass for a decade now.
Basically.
When is it enough? How many times does Michigan State have to beat you for you to drop this arrogant role Ohio State means everything and Michigan State means nothing?
I'm going to go out on a limb 172.
That's an awfully low number.
All right, 462. 469,000.
That's what it is, right? Defensive Michigan fans, they're stuck in the past, can't just don't be defensive about it. You've just been really bad for a long time. And it's okay. And you need it. Well, it's not okay, but you need to get upset about it rather than denying that it's fucking happening.
You know, it's funny. He in his Chris in his video even kind of made a mention of this, that there is clearly a different emphasis put on this game for the two programs. Sure. I mean, it's clear.
That's always been the case, but it shouldn't be anymore.
That's the thing. Every single year now, and basically every single year of the D'Antonio era, you can see the differing level of intensity that Michigan State brings to the game that Michigan doesn't. And this is not me as a Michigan State fan tooting my team's horn. That's not it at all. It's just clear if you watch the game that Michigan State, like Chris said, it matters to them.
In fact, if anybody should have that arrogance, it should be you.
Well, I'm not arrogant at all.
But that's what I'm saying. Michigan there are a lot of Michigan fans out there that have an unwarranted arrogance based on history, and that arrogance, should a Michigan State fan have it, would not be unwarranted. Why? Because you've kicked our ass for a decade. Like, you're allowed to do that. Like, in 1996, 1997 through about 2006, when I really started giving a shit about football, as a Michigan fan, I could have that arrogance.
State was very bad.
Because we kicked your ass all the time. Outside of a few cute wins by Michigan State.
You have a smoker.
They stopped the clock when they shouldn't have. Yeah, those years, I could have that arrogance. We won a national championship. I was also 9 years old. Newsflash, I'm 29 now. It's 20 years later. It's 11 years later since the last time Michigan was truly nationally relevant in 2006. That was it. It's been a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize what you are. That's all you need to do. I don't think there are enough Michigan fans that do. Now, I'm only friends with the ones that do, so I feel like there are a lot of you out there. But I feel like there are way too many that don't. It's not all about Ohio State anymore, and it shouldn't be.
And it's funny, too, because, you want to talk about, and again, another thing that Chris kind of alluded to, you talk about the fact that the Michigan State-Michigan rivalry it appears at this point in time not as important to Michigan, that they look at the Penn States and the obviously the Ohio State. And Ohio State Michigan is obviously a gigantic rivalry. There's no debating that. But they look at those games as seemingly more important, right? But here's the funny thing. To the point of Michigan State being, if not a national brand in the last 7-8 years, it is certainly a major Big Ten brand. It's one of the top Big Ten brands.
Are you going to be Alabama? No. Are you going to be? Could you be what USC is? Sure,
probably.
Could you be? Are you going to be Ohio State? No. But those are outliers. Those are the blue chips, and that's what Jim Harbaugh and Michigan are supposed to be. But they're not. So stop pretending like they are.
Yeah, the Big
Ten,
or
like they're a minute away from being there.
The Big Ten championship game has been a thing for what? This is the 7th season, I believe. 2010 was the first game, I believe.
And Michigan hasn't been to one.
Michigan hasn't been to one. Michigan State's been to 2.
Won one of those. Been to a college football playoff. Got smoked, but you fucking got there.
You got there.
You got there.
Yep.
And if the college football Final Four is anything like the college basketball Final Four, it's a big deal. A Final Four is, to a lot of people, like winning a national championship. Sucks when you lose, but yeah, dude. I mean, you know how I am. It's why we get along talking Michigan State, because I recognize what we are, and I recognize what you are. We're worse than you, and you're better than us. It's just that simple.
I think you said the same thing twice.
It's.
But I like the emphasis because it makes me feel good.
Michigan fans do everything that they accused Michigan State fans of doing for so long. They get butthurt when you talk about it. You're no better than those Michigan State fans that you made fun of through the 90s, through the early 2000s. You're exactly the same.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier too. In my last little tooting of Michigan State as a program, when we had Ben on earlier, and you were talking about something you've mentioned multiple times. On the show to us, to Ben, on the little Facebook conversation you guys were having that kind of led to our conversation today.
Hey, we resolved it,
and then to Ben again today on the show. You talked about especially this year, the seeming lack of progression and development of the majority of the team, right? Like you said, there's a few guys that definitely progress.
I think Karan Higdon's a guy that took a giant leap forward.
Sure.
I think Devin Bush is a guy that took a big leap forward, but he was good really from the start of the year.
Yeah, but generally, when
not many guys you can point out.
Yeah, it was a seeming lack of progression and improvement. That's the big difference to me for the seasons that Michigan State and Michigan had this year. Their seasons at the end of the day record-wise, are going to look relatively similar. Michigan State has a chance to have at least one more win.
So does Michigan.
Like one more win than Michigan.
Oh,
they might actually have the chance to technically have two more wins than Michigan.
Yeah.
If Michigan loses and Michigan State wins, I don't know what's going to happen in the bowl game. It's going to be interesting. But Michigan State, one of the big reasons why Michigan State was able to have the turnaround that they had is a lot of guys who were young and up and coming and hadn't had a lot of experience had vast improvements from the beginning of the year to the end, right? And that's what leads to a team having a better season than you expect.
That's just it. When you're bad, show me that there's something to look forward to. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
I don't need my team. I want. It's like I said. I don't care what team I root for. I want you to do one of two things for me: either compete for a championship, or show me that you are on some sort of path with some sort of plan to compete for a championship. Do one of those two things. I don't think there's any excuse for any professional organization, any college football program, from a coaching perspective at least, to not be doing one of those two things at all times. There's no excuse for that. If you're not competing for a championship and you're not showing me some progression toward competing for a championship, I have no use for you. Why would I watch you? You're a bad product. Is that unfair? I think that's fair.
No, and the funny thing is, specifically talking about U of M, I think I kind of think it's silly if that's not your mentality, because as you said, Michigan fancies itself a blue chip, right? But they right now are nowhere near. They got to get there. They're not a blue chip right now. You can't possibly call yourself a blue chip program when you've had the records you've had and you've been in the position as a program that you've been in for, as you said, now going on at least a decade at the very minimum.
There are MAC schools that could beat you on any given year. That's a fact. Anyway, we gotta get to fourth and medium before we terminate this podcast. Mike's back this week.
It's so much finality when you say terminate. It really is, but
it's over.
Still just sounds so
the show is over.
Hard.
This particular podcast.
Yeah.
Let's get to fourth and medium. If the music will play
someday.
God, every time.
Do the girls get to play? Oh, we playing footballs, not balls.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
We couldn't do diddly poo offensively.
We've got to be the dumbest team in America.
What's the matter with you, boy? You too stupid to do what your coach tells you?
It's time for fourth and medium, because fourth and long would be too cliche. Listen closely. You might learn something.
Oh, yeah. Coming out of the final weeks of fourth and medium. I don't know how many topics I'm going to be able to come up with in the coming weeks, gentlemen, but this is the fun game we play all throughout football season on Monday nights, where these two gentlemen, David Faze and Mike Tripp, try to guess what my opinion is on 4 topics throughout the world of football. Gentlemen, we start, as we always do, on first down. This one's very simple. Oklahoma and Georgia facing off in a Rose Bowl, the first national semifinal. And Clemson and Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in the other national semifinal of these 4 teams, gentlemen. Very, very simply, who has the best shot to take home a national championship? Whoever wants to begin.
You said Clemson and Alabama, Georgia and Oklahoma, right?
Yep.
What it was?
You got a 1 in 4 shot.
Who has the best shot to take everything home? God, and I went against Alabama last week too.
Well, they didn't play. They didn't play this last week.
That's right. It was the week before
when they lost to Auburn.
Yep. It's tough to bet against them, but I have a feeling. Me personally, they're gonna fucking rebound, and I believe you think that they're gonna do that too. More than likely, it's gonna be Alabama, Oklahoma in the final, and that Alabama's gonna win it all. You think?
All right.
Mine's very simple, and I could be wrong, but this is my gut feeling. And it's the same opinion that I have, and I believe you will share this thought process. It's Oklahoma because they got the best player in college right now, and it happens to be at the most important position on the field, and that's quarterback. And Baker Mayfield is a man possessed right now, and even though I don't know that Oklahoma has the absolute best team from top to bottom of the four, I think they are absolutely more than adequate at all positions, and Baker Mayfield puts them over the top. And I just think Oklahoma has all the makings of a national contender and national title winner this year.
Oh, wow. Well, you boys had a 1-4 shot. You both guessed differently.
We're both wrong.
You both got it wrong. Here's the thing. Clemson and Alabama's a little bit of a toss-up. I think Bama ultimately is the more talented team, and I do like Alabama to come out of that game. When it comes to Oklahoma and Georgia, the issue that I have with Oklahoma is that they, on numerous occasions, have given up a lot of points this season. They don't play very good defense. Baker Mayfield is the best player in America. I do believe he should be a shoo-in for the Heisman. And I love me some Baker Mayfield. I love his antics. I love the way he handles himself as a little bit of a douche, but charming about it. I do, however, believe that the Georgia Bulldogs will ultimately top the Oklahoma Sooners in this semifinal. And it's for those reasons that I just gave you, in that I don't, and that Oklahoma doesn't play very good defense, and Georgia, Auburn, Bama, these are all teams that maul you in the trenches. Nobody was doing it better than Auburn up until last week, when Georgia took them to task in the rematch. And to win it all, I like the Georgia Bulldogs. And because I think ultimately they match up well against Oklahoma. And then the second factor being national championships being played in Atlanta, gentlemen. So give me the home field advantage. Give me the team that took down the juggernaut that was Auburn for the past 5 weeks. I'm taking Georgia to come away with a national championship this season. And we move to second down.
That was Georgia's second time playing them in the matter of a month, though. Remember that. That makes a difference.
It's true. And there was some anger there.
It's hard to beat a team twice. Doesn't happen a lot.
Win in the trenches. Bama, Georgia is going to be a fun game. Am I going to be surprised if Alabama wins the national championship? No. How could you ever be surprised at that? But I like Georgia.
Are you going to be surprised if Oklahoma wins the national title?
I think I will be. I think I will be pretty surprised.
I'm waiting for somebody to stop that offense. It hasn't happened really very much this year, so that's what I'm waiting, watching for.
It's all going to depend on what happens at the point of attack against Georgia. We'll see what happens. We move to second down. Gentlemen, the Vikings just keep winning. Another tough road win in Atlanta this week to win 8 in a row. Behind the play of Case Keenum at quarterback. Right here, right now, should the Vikings be the NFC favorite to go to the Super Bowl? Right here, right now. Dave?
As good as the Eagles have been, they do not bring the same type of defense to the table that the Minnesota Vikings do. And I think that, in the end, is what's going to make the difference. Philadelphia absolutely has the better quarterback. There's no doubt about that. And it's a better offensive team in general than the Vikings. But I think the Vikings offensively have enough, and their defense is absolutely the better of the two defensive units between Minnesota and Philadelphia. And so I do believe Minnesota should be considered the favorite to make their way through the NFC in the playoffs, and I believe that you feel that way as well.
Mike?
It's tough for me to say that they should be considered because they are somewhat mortal enemies of mine. Aside from last night's tough loss that Philly faced, I'm gonna say that Philly should still be the favorite. You can't. They played a tough Seattle team, and they're plagued by injuries right now, and they prevailed. And going into that environment's always difficult.
Toughest, maybe the toughest road game in the NFL.
Right.
I would say that it is.
But I'm confident that it should be Philadelphia. That they're the contenders for the NFC, and you will ultimately see them represent the NFC in the NFL. I mean, in the Super Bowl.
What do I think?
What do you think? You're probably going to go against me and choose Minnesota.
Well, you are both right. I think Minnesota, they just keep mauling people. Like, it's not always pretty. It's not always fun, but there's two things that Minnesota brings to the table that I don't know that Philly does. Right? Like, Carson Wentz, the way he's playing, it's sexy, it's fun, and he's really good. There's no doubt about that. He's awesome. But Minnesota brings two things that I don't think Philly does. One being the defense that you mentioned, Dave. And the other being the fact that, yeah, Case Keenum's a backup, third stringer maybe. But you know what he does really, 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 really well? He takes care of the ball. And he does just enough. And he recognizes that defense is what's going to win them games. And he says, you know what? I'm going to go out and score my team 17 points, and we're going to win this game 17-14. And that's how we're going to take care of our business. That's what I really like about Minnesota. And in an NFL era where offense takes precedent over everything, when you have that team that plays that awesome defense, and you have that offense that does just enough and takes care of the ball, those teams do really well. So yeah, I do think that the Minnesota Vikings should be the favorite to represent the NFC in this year's Super Bowl, right here, right now. And we got 4 weeks left. Let's see what happens. We move to third down. Gentlemen, the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Chargers, all sitting at 6-6, tied atop the AFC West right now, with the Chiefs currently having the tiebreaker. Does anybody want to win this motherfucker? I don't know. Will the winner finish above 500?
I'll take this. They will. The winner will. What is it? Chiefs, Chargers, and the Raiders all at 6-6?
Yes, sir.
I could see.
Bonus question.
All right,
bonus question.
Who's going to win it?
Who will it be? I feel like we're asking this question every week, but just what, who do I think it'll be this week? Just bonus question.
Who's going to actually...
Will they finish above 500, and who will it be?
Yes, they will finish above 500. It's going to be a... God, I want to say 9-7 record. And I could see it being Oakland.
Dave, you can answer the bonus question as well.
I'm going to answer the bonus question. I would agree on the record that it's going to be 9-7. I think that's probably fair. And the team that I think it'll be, the Los Angeles Chargers.
David Faze is right on both accounts. They will finish above 500. I do think it'll be the Los Angeles Chargers, and here's why. This season has been fucking crazy in the AFC West. When you consider the start that the Chiefs had at, what were they, 5-1?
5-0. They were 5-0 one
5-0. I think they were 6-1.
6-1, yes.
And the Chargers started the season 2-5, if I'm not mistaken.
I can tell you real quick.
And they're both 6 And 6, I do believe it'll be the Los Angeles Chargers. I do believe they'll finish above 500, and there are a couple of reasons why.
The Chargers started 0-4.
Okay, 2 and 6.
Then they won 3 in a row to go to 3 and 4. Then they were 3 and 6.
Okay, 3 and 6.
Now they're 6 and 6.
I got you.
Yeah,
crazy, absolute fucking
wild
madness.
Season, yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs were the best team in the NFL, right? They really were. Through the first 5 weeks, they were the best team in the NFL.
Hey, who were the Kansas City Chiefs last year? Who were the Kansas City Chiefs of last season? Is what I was trying to ask.
Oh, I don't know.
It's the Minnesota Vikings with Sam Bradford.
They've turned it around.
They went 5-0 and then nothing.
It is the Chargers. They will finish above 500, and there are a couple of reasons why. Okay, first of all, I want this to be known that the Chiefs have by far the easiest record of these 3 teams. The Raiders...
Easiest schedule?
That's what I meant. The easiest schedule remaining in these last 4 games. The Raiders are at those Chiefs, Cowboys at home, at the Eagles, and then at the Chargers. They have the toughest. The Chiefs have the Raiders at home, the Chargers at home, the Dolphins at home, and then they go on the road to take on the Broncos. By far the easiest left. The Chargers have remaining the Redskins at home, at the Chiefs, at the Jets, and then the Raiders at home. That one's in the middle. But I think it's going to be the Chargers because the Chiefs have absolutely fucking imploded. This team has imploded. There's talk of whether or not, Mahomes should start over Alex Smith. They've got cornerbacks throwing flags in the in the stands, leaving the damn field, and then coming back outside with no socks on for some reason. The Chiefs have imploded. The Chargers are rolling. They finish 9-7. The Raiders finish 7-9, and the Chiefs finish 8-8.
What did I say a couple weeks ago, by the way, when we were talking about coaches? I don't know what the interview process was like or who was interviewed for each specific job. You don't necessarily hear all the names. But, and I said this a couple weeks ago, if the Broncos at any point brought Anthony Lynn in for an interview and didn't hire him, they done messed up.
Whoops.
Yep.
I think, Vance Joseph. I don't see that.
Not good.
I don't see that whole deal working out.
Not good.
I mean, they don't have a quarterback, and that's John Elway's fault.
The Dolphins were already not very good defensively with some good defensive talent last year with Vance Joseph as their defensive coordinator. So I don't understand it. It didn't make sense from the very beginning.
Fair enough. We move to 4th down, gentlemen. We're going back to college football. As the Alabama Crimson Tide edged out Ohio State for a spot in the college football playoff. This has been very talked about. It's a point of contention. Alabama doing it without winning their conference, much to the chagrin of many. Should Alabama have gotten the spot over Ohio State?
Didn't we have controversy like this last year with Ohio State and the fact that they didn't
No, it would have been with Penn State, not Ohio State last year.
But Nick Saban also came out last year and said, I think you should have to win your conference to get into the college football playoff. And now look what we're looking at.
Oh, and it continues.
But last year, Penn State won the Big Ten, but they were not in the selection.
That's correct.
Ohio State made the cut, even though they didn't win their conference.
Ohio State only had 1 loss.
True.
Penn State had 2 or 3. Was it 2 or 3?
I think
they had
2.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
In fact,
we'll go back to it.
Yeah.
This year, Alabama doesn't win their conference
with 1 loss.
With 1 loss, Ohio State does with 2. Ugh. Fuck, that's a conundrum.
Well, I mean, I know my viewpoint, but the problem with this whole bit is it's got to be what do we think is. That's the part. Questions like this really make me mad about the way that the format of this game.
And you're asking, should Ohio State not be in it, but Alabama?
Should Bama have gotten it over OSU? Who should have gotten it?
You're going to say Ohio State should have gotten it.
Dave?
Well, my 2 cents on this is that, and I have, and I'll go back to your phrase earlier, which is roll back the tape, because I know I've said this multiple times before when we've talked about the college football playoff. The committee, in my opinion, when this whole college football thing began, made it seem very important to win your conference championship, right? Made it seem like that was going to be a major deciding factor for you to get into this potential playoff. And now on 2 different occasions have gone against that very statement. Again, I shouldn't say that. They haven't ever come out and said, if you win your conference championship, you're in. I shouldn't say that. I'm not putting words in their mouth. They've never said that. But the way that they've gone about this process has made it seem that was going to be a major deciding factor. However, the worse than that to me about this is the fact that Alabama played an absolute cupcake schedule. They lost to, in my opinion, the one really legitimate top 25 team that they played, who then went to the conference championship and got bombed. Okay? And Ohio State, even with their 2 losses, did they have some struggles this year? Sure. Was one of their losses a bad loss? Yeah, it was. That loss to Iowa stings. It stings bad. But they beat 2 top 25 teams. Actually, I take that back. Technically, if you conclude the conference championship game, they beat 3 top 25 teams. But they absolutely destroyed Michigan State. And they beat a team who at the time, and I think at that time was when we were talking about how Penn State was one of the top teams in the nation. They went ahead and beat them. And I don't think that the committee sends a very good message saying that those wins don't matter. When you as Alabama have to schedule no one, and just because you only had 1 loss instead of 2, you get in because you're Alabama. I think that's unfair. Look, I know how good Alabama is a year in and a year out, and I think Saban is an unbelievable football coach. But if in my opinion, doesn't make sense. I don't think it's a fair process. However, I think, maybe I'm weird here, but I think that you are going to say that Alabama deserved the spot.
Give this one to Mike Tripp. I don't think Alabama deserved the spot, and it's for
I've never been happier to have you to be wrong. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's everything that you just brought up, Dave. It's the resume. Alabama has no resume. They didn't beat anybody. I mean, let's call it what it is. As much as we like to tout the SEC and how great the SEC didn't have a very good year this year.
Only top 25 team they beat was Mississippi State, who was okay.
Just okay. You lost to Auburn. You're one excellent opponent.
Mm-hmm.
You beat a bad Florida State team in the opening week of the year, 24-7. You played Mercer 3 weeks ago. Yeah, you beat a terrible old Ole Miss team 66-3. But outside of that, and what I just said isn't even saying much. Alabama had no resume. They had no resume, and they didn't win their conference championship. Ohio State played Oklahoma. Ohio State, and they lost. Ohio State beat a number 3 Penn State team. Yep. That Iowa loss, that was a rough one. No doubt about it. Yes, there's a Michigan fan on this show sitting here and telling you that Ohio State should be in the college football playoff. And the committee, to me, chose Alabama on name alone. On name alone, Dave. What else do they have to point to?
I got another fun thing.
One loss.
I got another fun thing for you. I don't know who he was being interviewed by or where this conversation happened, but people brought up to Nick Saban his lack of strength of schedule, basically, and he made a comment about their second game of the year this year was against Fresno State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, typical super soft out of conference opponent.
They won 41-10
for Alabama, right? And he said it wasn't our choice to have to play Fresno State. I shouldn't say he didn't say that. He said we didn't have a choice of out of conference opponent. We didn't have anybody available, anybody else to play. Well, I got news for you, Alabama.
Why don't you try coming up north?
You had signed on to a home-and-home series with Michigan State and backed out of it. So you had a legitimate out-of-conference opponent you could have played. A team that is not on the same level as an Ohio State.
And you probably would have won.
I'm sure you would have won, but you would have gotten more respect for that win than you get for playing Fresno State. That's just reality.
Okay, let's say the way Michigan State played this year, exact same team, same record outside of playing Alabama.
Sure.
Let's say Alabama comes to East Lansing. Let's say the first home game was in East Lansing.
I think it was supposed to be.
And you win 41-10,
yeah.
just like you did against Fresno State. You still get more credit.
Absolutely.
No question about it.
It's a better, for all the Michigan fans that want to poop on Michigan State is absolutely a better brand than Fresno State.
You said poop.
I did say poop. Feces, fecal. No, but Michigan State
describes the show.
Yeah, Michigan State is
farted, by the
way. Without a doubt, a better national brand than Fresno State is. There's no question about that.
I don't know, Dave. It's close. Fresno State had David Carr and Derek Carr.
Oh, man, they produced 2 players ever. No, I'm sure there's a couple more somewhere down the line that I'm not remembering, but it's because it's Fresno State, and nobody's going to remember that unless you're just a Fresno State diehard. Are there Fresno State diehards?
Don't think I know any.
Yeah, I feel like you would have absolutely had to have gone to that school to be a Fresno State diehard. That's like one of those schools. There's no way you're just a random Fresno State fan. I don't think that exists. It's a California team, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of other California schools that if you're going to be a random.
In fact, Dave, they're so California they play in Fresno.
That's
California.
What I'm saying. If you're just a kind of willy-nilly California sports fan, your affiliation is not going to be to Fresno State.
Just said poop and willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly poop.
And about that's the name of the episode, by the way. By the way, I think we are trying to make that into a bit. Mike, I don't know if we've let you in on this.
Naming the episode during the course of the show.
We're going to name the episode during the course of the show, and it's going to be the dumbest thing we say throughout the show.
Yep.
And I think, what did we say, willy-nilly poop? Or poop willy-nilly or something?
Whatever you go with, I'm sure will be wonderful.
Willy-nilly poop.
Willy-nilly poop.
That's the name of the show.
That's the name of a really stank Willie Nelson weed.
Willy-nilly poop.
Willy-nilly poop.
I got to write that down. We have to terminate this podcast. And other thanks to Sean Baligian. Please come to the Lodge Bar and Grill in Keego Harbor this coming Thursday, December 7th.
It's
honest to God, it's one of the coolest events you'll be.
Free entry.
Yeah.
Free VIP parking.
Yeah.
A wonderful event with great people. It is for a great cause.
Every time you get more inebriated to make the chick across the bar look better. Every dollar that you spend on that endeavor is going to give kids Christmas presents.
Dan will take your grenade.
Oh, yes. You've been listening to Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. David Faze, Mike Tripp, myself, Dan Griffin. Out of Bounds Detroit Sports. SportsRadioDetroit.com. We are out of here.